Happy Saturday, everybody. Welcome to R6CC. This is semifinals between Akron and NC State. Reese Hambrick, Brian Schubert here to bring you kind of a grudge match. We saw this matchup take place already on Friday. Akron was able to get the better of NC State. Reese, was that changed today? Is it going to be maybe a coin flip, or is it going to go the other direction?
I don't know. It certainly could go either way here tonight, and important to note that for the Akron side, they won't be playing with Fozo, as he is not currently allowed in competition. We've got Arv coming onto the server as the substitution for tonight, and it'll be a big change from last night's CR6 championship game in which Fozo was present. Generally, the consensus so far has been when Akron play with Fozo, things go pretty well all right, but they haven't had a lot of time to scrim with Arv, and so as a result, maybe their game and scores aren't as high as they would want them to be.
You know, Reese, you're alluding to the rosters themselves, so let's actually bring them up. Let's actually see who's the 10 players representing our teams today. As you were mentioning, Fozo is currently absent on the side of Akron, so Imat, Jetcon, Hennessy, Jobu, and Arv, a legacy member of the Akron roster. They have been stepping away to focus on their academic studies throughout this year, but they're still definitely a lethal player.
Yeah, and from last night's match, I am really impressed by how well Hennessy has played recently. He has been an incredibly consistent player. The clutch minister, as he's known. You really can count on him to do a number of different tasks. We'll shift over to the other roster that we've got tonight. NCSU have got the standard crew of Taco, Anarchy, Drew, Rai, and Pred, who have been consistent in our Power 5 for the Collegiate consensus pretty much the entirety of this scholastic year for Rainbow Six Siege. I think some people would say maybe Akron have toppled Converse and moved into the #1 placing nationally, but given that they're playing with that substitute, I think it does have an effect on things.
And as you were mentioning, Converse and Akron, they did meet up yesterday in a different collegiate league, CR6, and that went to 4 maps in the best of 5, where Akron, kind of the underdog statistically, was able to just kind of stomp Converse. Let's be real there. And they're carrying a lot of heat underneath their wings today. They're looking brilliant. But as you're mentioning, the lack of Fozo might change things, because Fozo's more of a primary entry flex support or flex entry style player, where Arv is going to be your primary support, primary SMG 11. So who on the side of Akron is going to kind of fill the entry shoes? We know it's kind of Imat on the entry duty, but who else?
I don't know, I would presume Jetcon. We know what he's capable of. He can kind of step into the plate and hit some heavy hitters. Last night on the, I want to say it was the clubhouse map of that series, he dropped like 13 kills. He was really getting active. We'll transition, though, to the topic of the map veto structure. We'll go to see which maps are in play tonight. It'll be Club Oregon and Villa that we end up on 3 very bog standard maps, and we all know Oregon has historically been probably the best map in the pool for NCSU, so as we kick off on that map, things are probably going to lead for them in the series.
As you were alluding to earlier, Clubhouse was the final map of CR6 yesterday. That was the map that Akron would eventually take their crown on. Oregon was banned, absent in the pool, and Villa was the decider, so we never actually got to... Pardon me, we saw Villa at map number 3. So we got to see Akron there. They looked strong on Villa, but that was actually the map that they ended up dropping on map number 3.
All right. Well, as far as my predictions go, I have a feeling that NCSU are finally going to be able to kind of reclaim that upper hand. They may have lost CEA in those 2 matches. It sucks to lose back-to-back, but perhaps now they are hungrier than ever. And with Converse kind of sitting in an area of questionability, you know, how are they playing? What happened last night? Why couldn't they close out the grand finals of CR6? It makes me think NCSU could reach that pinnacle of the rankings that they held for so long during Stage 1 and Stage number 2. And a #1 position nationally looks possible. A win here to move them on to the grand finals would be big for their program.
Well, we've been speculating all day, my friend. Let's dive into map number 1. Let's actually see what we're going to see on Clubhouse. Now, we saw some fun elements yesterday in Clubhouse. I mean, again, it was really the homecoming of Akron. That's what we saw in the analyst desk yesterday. It was the culmination of the old Akron that we knew from last year coming together as just this terror entry duo. But that entry duo was Fozo and Imat. And that's really why I wanted to kind of mention the point earlier that we have Arv in the lobby, who's a phenomenal support player, probably one of the best support players in Collegiate, but you have to, well, take that role of an entry. And I wonder if the operator bans are maybe going to lean towards the lack of a true entry or true secondary entry.
Maybe. I think there is certainly a way you can play Clubhouse like that, but I would be hesitant to say that the operator veto structure is going to have much meaningful effect on it. There's your hib taken away. We've got Maverick sailing through the veto structure. Let's go to the two defenders. We got Mira up first. That was what Akron did end up banning versus Converse in the CR6 match last night. Final defender out here from NCSU. I think it's no shock to probably expect something like a Valkyrie, maybe even a Maestro. If it were to be Cade, things do get a little interesting with Maverick being left through, but you do have that relationship between the Suri Torch wielding Hard Breacher and the one defender trying to stop up those hatches.
It's pretty standard so far in the operator bans. The only real wrinkle is the Queen of Hatches, Hibana, but that's going to leave my least favorite attacking operator available, Reese. I've gone on rampages about Maverick and how strong Maverick can be. I mean, Maverick has the ability to use that torch to slice and dice around electrified walls, reinforcements, and all of a sudden, the great setup that you have as a defender with a Cade, maybe a Bandit or a Mute Jammer, all of a sudden it's null and void because the wall is just simply not there. Now, to be fair, Reese, it does require a bit of coordination on the side of the attacking team. You're going to have to bring in a supporting character like a Buck to shoot away the soft wall that's left, but that's nothing that Akron is unfamiliar with, and in fact, like we were talking about, they have extra supporting players in the server today.
One thing we did just see there before the repick was Jobu initially having came out of the operator select phase with the Capitao. Expect a lot of that from Akron. He is really a backbone operator for both their gym attacks as well as the way that they take on the CCTV. On the NCSU side, we'll have a full roam, it looks like, coming forward, but lacking your main drone denial operators, the Mute and Mozzie. Instead, an old familiar face, so the Legion does come through, possibly having some of those goo mines to prevent any kind of a quick rush, but it's refreshing to see an operator for Legion who really, since he got nerfed, has not gotten too much playtime.
Hidden play is going to prevent the hatches from being kind of taken away for free. Again, you're going to have to use that Maverick, but before you even get to that stage, Reese, you're going to have to start to clear out the map, make sure that there's no pesky roamers. JetCon on the entry with the LMGE playing that Zofia. Now, we saw a sprinkling of the NC State roamers, but it was more of a Cade up towards the secret stairs where they're currently playing. That's Anarchy on that operator, but they're going to probably follow it relatively quickly whenever a drone enters into like their area of operations. But the next main roamer is going to be the one on that first floor. That's going to be Legion Drew lurking that sector with the hatch open, and Predator. They're going to try to fight for as much real estate as possible.
It is a little intriguing to me to see some use of the strip club area, which is not entirely too popular in terms of the way that you would normally play this realm. NCSU may be thinking they don't have quite enough resources to commit to a full top extension. You realize when you don't have that Mutant Mozzie, if there's drones rolling through, the attackers can get quite a number of extra pinch areas. Over by the strip club, it's not so easy. There's really a lot of distance, a lot of safe cover for somebody like Taco to hold out on, not to mention the fact he's also got this deep angle to help protect what was just previously the Legion in bar, but the rest of the rum contingent has since fallen back.
There's no way they get Sharon in the strip club, right? I mean, you're usually expecting them to have fallen off there. To be fair, you do have a Jackal, so if the footprints were left in that sector, it's very likely that they're going to get spotted. If that drone dropping in from the hatch over into gym bedroom, Taco's life has now been confirmed in the strip club, and they're most likely not going to be able to exist there much longer. But the time frame for Akron, Reese, they don't actually have a lot of it left. We're about to enter into sub 60 seconds. Sure, you have the moto hatch open, but you only have control of the top two floors, and you're nowhere near really pressuring the bomb site. Now with a foothold in a blue, that's a step in the right direction, but you still have a lot to go with.
So it looks as though they're going to ignore the castle. The only player really paying attention to that right now would be the Jackal of IMAT working on main stairs as he just sort of waits for some relative pressure. Jobu coming down for the dirt pressure. That will be another imperative element. If this blue take is to be successful, it's not going to be without that dirt player's contributions. Anarchy with a C4 toss. It goes out and it does connect onto Hennessy. The replicator at the back of AK is not providing enough intel. This push starting to go a bit awry, and especially thanks to Anarchy coming through with a 3K. Rai will quickly sidestep into the hallway for NCSU to finish off, stopping that quick blue push.
Reese, is one of those rounds where time management ultimately is the biggest problem for Akron. They spend a lot of their drones, a lot of their resources trying to clear out the map, which they need to do, but once they realize that they've expended about 60% of their allotted time in round one, they're saying, uh-oh, we're just going to try to push through this door. They end up fatal funneling, and NC State is able to deny that push in through blue relatively easily, whether or not it's a nitro cell, whether or not it's the heads-up gunplay. I mean, it all just came together perfectly for NC State because of the bad time management for Akron.
And so moving next, I think it's important for Akron to really hold on to that concept.
Yes.
It's pretty much club. Oh, here we go. All right, scratch that thought. We have gotten so much bar stock lately. You know, I think me and fellow last night were very disappointed that the CR6 championship match did not have this objective. NCSU were not present in that game. They were replaced by Converse. So now that NCSU, the strat book, is on full display here, we will get to go to the fun objective of bar and stock. And we all know the vertical is pretty important about this site. If you can get in up above, generally things become a little bit more troubling for the defenders.
And the why I love this bomb site is because it provides kind of this perfect marriage of different clubhouse strategies, Reese, where it's almost like the room that we just saw downstairs in the basement. And it's almost like the gym bedroom hold that we would see on the west side of the top floor. It's like you made these two bomb sites, or you made this one bomb site in the middle of the map, and since it's in the middle of the map, it takes the best parts of both defenses. And as you were alluding to earlier, sometimes it can be quite cumbersome for a defender if the attackers take strip club or they have a lot of control of stock and garage, but it's kind of the new meta because you can't play it in CCTV, especially with the Maverick in play, because that reinforced wall on the outside is going to be, well, removed. And Jobu's about to demonstrate us kind of why, but on a different wall.
And so for NCSU, they've got all the different tools you would expect in the box here for this top floor play. It'll be up to Akron to get in and coordinate, achieve all the normal steps of the clear. Anarchy looking for a repelled player. There isn't one. Jobu doing things simply from the balcony, and Anarchy will look for the prone foot angle to see if he might be able to dispatch Jobu early. It won't happen off the back of a nice little assist play from IMAT.
Drones still working their way upstairs for Akron. They have realized that NC State is pretty much all lurking upstairs, as they would expect, but now here comes the most difficult portion of the round, Reese, turning that drone information into usable information so the entries of Akron can take map control, because JetCon has been lurking in construction for quite a while. They tried to use an Ionic clone to identify Predator once again, but it's purely in vain. I mean, Akron has been in this door frame for the past 30 seconds. They're gonna need to start to move and start to pressure NC State a little bit more before NC State uses their own pressure, the nitro cells.
JetCon super lucky there to have survived the C4. You see, it brings him down to just that tiny last flashing sliver of HP, and it looks to have given over Akron control of this top floor. You say with 65 seconds, I don't know, is that enough time for them left to operate? I would say so. You just need to get your players inside, have JetCon start to open up the vert, but you don't have that sledge maybe that you would traditionally expect here for the vert process. Doesn't matter because IMAT will just cut through two players, and he's looking to line up a third against that one inside a bathroom, but Anarchy will elude the Finca, at least for the meanwhile.
Ooh, Predators being as quiet as possible to sneak their way up the central stairs. IMAT the Terror for 2 kills earlier. They're going to be silenced, but NC State not looking particularly well on their operator count. Only 2 of them left with 30 seconds of the Akron attack. That's more than enough time for Akron to begin to plant the diffuser. Speaking of the devil, Hennessy begins to go for a plan. The lurking Predator might have an angle, but the pre-made murder holes are going to be their undoing, and now Anarchy in the bomb site proper, forced to find 3. One of them DBNO, that JetCon, so that's going to make the endeavor of that Castle of Anarchy that much easier. Another shot into Arv, and things are starting to look swell, but still, you have 30 seconds to play with, and your position is known, and the crash from Jobu is enough to stop the shenanigans of NC State.
Well, I think that round definitely demonstrates at least a vague familiarity for Akron on that bomb site in particular. I love that plant spot that they chose. Totally forced NCSU to commit to the full rotate, and they couldn't get it stopped up. Eventually, it left the castle in a spot where there were way too many angles to try to cover, and he simply could not isolate as many gunfights as he needed. Akron keeping us close and in hot contention. They've been a good attacking team all semester long, but most especially on this clubhouse map. It'll be important for them to keep this competitive when we know that we've got Oregon on the horizon.
gym bedroom, I guess the sister bomb site of where we just went in bar, because we saw the same area being used by NC State in their roam. Well, now that area is now part of the bomb site, and to kind of counteract that, Reese, we're going to see NC State expand their defense, most likely horizontally out towards the east into a section of the map called Cache CCTV. And from there, NC State is going to try to use as much utility as possible to slow down the Akron attack. And the utility that they've elected to bring, it's going to be the Wamai Pancakes, the Jaeger ADSs, and the newest addition into the competitive pool, Thorn.
I'm still kind of hesitant on my thoughts for Thorn. I don't know how she really
She's
can.
Fun.
She's fun, but her gadget, it feels like, I'll be honest here, I'm not really a big fan of trap operators. I think they're kind of annoying when I run into them in gold elo, but the Frost I can tolerate, right? Frost, her gadget it's good. You can sort of set it up and it gives you a way to stop window pushes. Okay.
So I like Thorn as an early detection device. So similar to how Frost is used in a sense, right? Frost forces the attackers into an opportunity cost where they have to look down when Frost is in play so they don't land in one of her Frost mats. Thorn is similar to that. It forces the attackers to make a decision. You walk into a hallway, you get detected by the gadget, it begins beep, 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 beeping. Not only does that provide information to the defenders, but it forces the attackers to decide, do I leave the door that I just pressured? Do I shoot it? Do I try to take a gunfight against the defenders? And you just try to overwhelm that attacker to hopefully make the wrong decision. And if nothing more, it just alerts you that, hey, there's an attacker somewhere over here.
Yeah, I think maybe you could sort of compare it to prox beepers, or
much,
maybe the other operator I would think of would be like Old Legion, when you used to be able to kind of see when somebody would walk into those mines. Melusi is definitely relevant, especially on that topic of kind of bulletproof utility. For IMAT sneaking in below, little rat play here. Do have a bit of a roam contingent playing out right now in the bar area, but no contest from the get-go. Kind of just a stalemate between Akron. Finally, IMAT will step through. He falls off the edge of the balcony, and yeah, really rough spot for him to be entrapped behind the stairs, and Drew will ice him out.
Well, solo work of Akron, and particularly IMAT, is going to put themselves at the man disadvantage. We're highlighting the potential take-in from the east. It's now just taking place, and with marginal amount of time left, that's going to kind of require Jobu, the player in that sector of the map, to move a little bit quicker. A bad repel for JetCon. They're going to lose their life, and Akron's kind of starting to grasp at straws. They're going to need to start to link up, play together, and remove the deployable shields that NC State is playing around. They certainly attempt that endeavor, but it leaves Jobu left in a 1v5. Reese is one of the hardest positions to be in. Taco falls, but I still don't expect more kills to go in favors of Jobu's way because they're stuck around a door frame, or they have to go into the vault of Logi, and those are all currently being monitored by members of the NC State defense.
Realistically, only these two entry points Jobu can really try to pursue right now, and both of them are heavily guarded. Shotgun waits for him just inside gold, and Jobu really doesn't predict it. He catches one shell. The smoke will just walk up on him again. Another round of the buckshot. Finally, Rai will go ahead and close out that battle. And look damn good on their gym defense. Things might have been a little rusty on the middle floor side of bar. They go up top, and things look peachy keen.
NC State just had map authority the entire round, Reese. It felt like Akron could have brought a giant sledgehammer or a bulldozer to the defense of NC State, and they just simply would not crumble. I mean, we saw the Akron push. If IMAT downstairs through billiards by themselves, to be fair, with drone help, but IMAT was just a sitting duck by themselves. They really didn't have any way to push forward. They were stuck in a crossfire of two members of NC State from below. The Akron attack upstairs in gym bedroom, while I admire them trying to open up that wall, they kind of just got a little bit lost in the sauce. They weren't able to synchronize their utility. Jobu was pushing solo, and right now, Akron, they looked phenomenal last night when they were playing Converse, but the strength of their attack just seems to be a little bit off, and I do wonder, is it the lack of Fozo on the secondary entry?
I'm not sure right now. I think it is worth maybe thinking about, paying attention to the way that Akron perform in that department, because if they can't get in an entry, if they have moments like where we saw IMAT drop off that balcony and he couldn't really get much action in the bar, that makes me think, that's kind of a failure in the entry category. You didn't get that control really foundationally. And when you allow the roamers to continue playing below inside bar, that's just one part of the strat as the attacker that you've kind of missed. Anarchy will just walk right into JetCon. Kind of an unadvisable gunfight, but IMAC gets traded out regardless, so maybe the Cade won't feel too bad about his death.
On the desk yesterday, I was talking about the Akron special, and that was when you just bring LMGs and you kind of walk through dirt tunnel, you walk down blue, and you kind of hope you go nuclear, but I guess no explosion yet because of those two trades back and forth. And even if you went for that style of play, Reese, I don't know if it'd go that well for Akron because of Rai playing the smoke and dirt. To be fair, they've expended 2 out of their 3 toxic gas grenades, so NC State's going to have to start to maybe subsidize a time-wasting strategy, maybe use Drew on the Legion, but dirt tunnel might be compromised relatively soon.
Especially with the time being where it is and knowing that Akron really have got a couple different members pursuing many different options. Things are faster, certainly, than they were last time, but Predator will just sort of, Jobu will solo push in against Rai the shotgun there, but Arv just picks him out from the smoke. That's a sight for sore eyes on the kill there in towards deep dirt. Taco on the trade, though. NCSU have done a great job in making sure they shut down whatever advantages Akron can try to bring to the table, and so they arrive to the bomb site with their eyes on the execute and 90 seconds to think about how they will conduct it.
JetCon's going to start to feel the pressure of their earlier HP loss during the opening kill, and they might be somewhat of a liability. Fortunately, there's no toxic gas grenades, and there's the entry of JetCon, but dismantled relatively easily from Taco. Unable to find the second, but Drew swings quickly after the fact, and there's NC State taking their second basement defense. Reese is certainly looking close there, but good job for NC State to start to narrow the margins.
It really did get closer, but it feels like they kind of failed at the same type of hurdle that lost them the first time they were down there. They tried to execute in a very singular fashion. I think the problem, maybe on a more macro level for them, is they will try to take dirt control, but they haven't been able to do it so far. It's just one player. We would need to look at the replay because I didn't honestly catch how the first player died in the dirt tunnel, but we did catch it there. The player just sort of walked in, tried to challenge the shotgun. Look, that dirt tunnel is really, it's got its twists and curves. It's got its nooks and crannies for your smoke to hide in. And Akron don't try to soften them up. Did you see a drone there, Chief? Because I didn't see one.
I didn't see one either. But good news. We saw plenty of drones the last time we were here over in Bar, so fear not, because it's also the last time that Akron won a bomb site, and I was kind of a naysayer when we saw Bar last. I was concerned that JetCon upstairs in, construction, also known as Con, was just a bit slow on their map control, but it was a great read from Akron to be able to bring that round into a post-plant victory, and I hope they're able to continue forward that same momentum because they looked brilliant then, and now just learn from your successes and make it even better.
Yeah, I think this is probably going to be the strong pivot point for the NCSU rotation, with Akron just being unable to get that bottom floor site. I think a lot of people would consider it to be maybe the strongest objective on the map. It does sort of depend on how you play for it, but Akron have failed a really simple hurdle with that extra dynamic pressure. It's not really going to make things any easier here on Bar, but so far, I feel like it's been the objective that's caused the problems and has resulted in certain team play elements being lacking, and not, more generally unprepared Akron or anything like that. NCSU weren't the greatest team when it came to the rotation last time. I think they just have to be careful how much authority they give, and if they let Akron into that stage area, they have to realize, there is going to be a punishment for that.
Well, they've let JetCon in part of the roam upstairs. Drew realizes it when they hear the flat place breaching charge, and they hightail it out of the top red. Now, while Drew will be able to survive another gunfight, Rai will not be so fortunate. Once again, Arv this time with the opening kill with the grenade. The last time we were in Bar, it was IMAT that found that grenade opening, and look at Anarchy's position right now, Reese. Really kind of stuck between the hammer and the anvil. You have IMAT in the window from behind, and you have another member of the Akron team pushing in from Cash, and Anarchy's able to kind of slip the net and hightail it out of there. They were a dead man, but good heads-up play from Anarchy, and they're going to return back to the bomb site.
While things are cruising along at a steady race for Akron, seeing if they might be able to outlast NCSU's bar stock war machine, or bar stage, even. Anarchy, look at this little sneak play, almost messed it up on the first, but he does quickly connect on the UMP-45. Your Iana is down. Your ability to quickly jump in with a replicator, gather any necessary information, as well as simply the fact, Chief, that Arv is really a hard-hitting type player, and on that Iana, never more so.
50 seconds left in the round, and still plenty of members of the NC State defense kind of just polka-dotted around the map. That's going to be a strong position for them to be in, because it's going to force Akron to kind of go for a last-minute droning, and that's one of the hardest things to do, Reese, when you're starting to go into your execute, you're starting to warm up and start to go for your push, but then you're like, uh-oh, wait, I don't have tabs on the defense. Matt has tabs on Taco. They end up falling, and look at the positioning of Drew, stuck in the middle of the bomb site. It's an awkward position to be in, because the swarm of Akron attackers are about to crash back onto the bomb site. Anarchy's towards the north of the map, Predators towards the north of the map, and Hennessy kind of sees the avenue. They begin to go for the plant. The coverage is perfect for Akron.
G4.
Predator's going to attempt to go for a nitro cell from underneath. It might be good. There goes Hennessy off the board. The scramble for the diffuser. They're going to be able to pick that back up. No more projectile and long-range utility, so it's going to come down to NC State trying to win the gun barrels. Once again, the coverage is perfect for Akron.
They look so good with how they play this sort of end round. It's marginally different than what happens on the bottom floor in Akron. You have to give so much praise to Jobu and especially to JetCon. JetCon was doing two entirely different things there. Not only was he watching the rotation for the double door from bar, as well as the wall over at Skull and the door behind the bar, he also, after getting a kill, had 3 seconds to race forward, get the bomb out of the chaos and the fog and the explosion, and got the bomb, picked it back up, started the plant again, and trusted his teammates that they would have the coverage.
Uh-oh. Look who's back, my friend. Thorin, to be fair, not the most impactful of the operators in the previous round, but still an operator that I've become quite fond of. And you know what? Her, I guess, 50 cal Uzi thing is quite fun to use as well. I mean, you know, sometimes you just need to have that as a player. You know, a gun that feels good in your hands, and after the loss that NC State just suffered, maybe it is time to bring out somebody who's more capable of clicking heads.
That's a fair point. NCSU have not really been able to score many kills when they come back on that site rotation. They just sort of walk into many established lines of fire from Akron, and it just gets really muddy with how they've played it. I think we did hear maybe one of the Razor Blooms activate. It was like very late in the round when Jobu was the final player for the offense inside construction, and you just sort of heard him run through the door, and the Thunder, the gadget started to activate behind him. The biggest point, I think, what's most important here for Akron to correct, having gone wrong last time they were present to attack this objective, was their take on the vertical below. It was incredibly underwhelming. They didn't get a refrag onto IMAT. There was not really a huge cohesive system of droning. It wasn't a very good looking attack.
Well, hopefully things start to go better for Akron, and the way that's going to look is by starting to open up more walls. We saw the Maverick Torch over by Platt, and we saw the Exothermic Charge be placed over by Solo Khan, and it's going to eventually erupt, creating a new line of sight and a new entry point for Akron. This was dearly missed the last time that we saw Akron execute this bomb site. They were really just pushing purely from the west side of the map. No longer an option for them. The vertical repel for Anarchy, a vertical repel for Matt finds Anarchy, and that's the way that Akron's going to start things off. Another opening kill in the back pocket of IMAT.
There's been a huge force pushing towards that right now. Toxic Babe Arv just barely manages to escape. If he had taken a single breath of that gas, it probably would have meant his undoing, so he'll go ahead and drop the replicator down for the re-droning process. Akron working on decent time, but now they've lost IMAT. Suddenly, Rai giving himself a bit of a surprise. There's a replicator in the site, and he chooses an awkward rotate, opens himself up to the sight line of Hennessy, rather than playing behind the reinforcement. Taco now taking damage. Surprise, surprise, he can be seen from out on highway. NCSU's gym defense starting to crumble under the pressure of what has been a more direct take from Akron.
Akron, tons of map control right now. That's allowing Hennessy to go for the plant. Predator from behind, but the window being monitored is going to drop them dead and render them off the board. Now Drew is going to attempt the exact same thing. JetCon falls. Maybe that's enough for Drew to pounce into action. R's coverage has dropped, but an SMG 11 against 3 is quite a weapon to be well wielded. But Hennessy falls. Bad positioning on their part, and still Drew in the bomb site, but nowhere near the diffuser race. And when you have Akron attackers playing these very long-range engagements, the likelihood of them clutching was very low.
Yeah, the defense did not have the power to be able to just reach out and touch the offense. I think Akron made a great rotation there. They just ignored kind of the pressure below, and you could say for NCSU, yeah, they probably should have tried to use that to their favor. Maybe, thrown a couple C4s from the vert and tried to stop that plant when it had begun. They didn't do that, and NCSU basically just rested on their laurels and closed out that gym defense with a very easy plant look. The way that they did that is going to be very helpful for their offense so far. It's that kind of quick coordination, everybody doing their jobs that NCSU need to be not only a consistent force when they're playing, this kind of siege, when they've got Arv and he's in play, but also, on a large scheme thing just for tonight.
3-3 to the half is a very comfortable position for both teams to be in. It's now Akron's turn to be on defense, and they're going to elect to start things off on Cache CCTV, a bomb site that was absent in the NC State defending lineup, so the first time that we're going to be seeing it in this matchup. And, well, we're talking about how CCTV can be quite a cumbersome bomb site if the attackers have the right bits of utility. NC State has brought out the right bits of utility, at least in theory. You have 3 hard breachers, 2 proper hard breachers. That's going to be the Selma charges of Ace, Thermite, the staple hard breacher, and Maverick kind of as a hard breacher 2.0, as a hard breach facilitator, as I like to call him, because he's going to be used more as a thatcher to help open up the wall rather than actually making a giant hole like the Thermites will.
Yeah, and it's that versatility. I think that's really going to be a powerful thing here for NCSU. You don't want to have IMAT. You know what he does. He kind of can sneak in sometimes against you and get an opening pick. If we have all 3 hard breachers survive, it's going to be a really overwhelming position for NCSU to be in. Cade Claw on the main wall. We'll have to have that Maverick go ahead and use the Surrey Torch to create the opening. Arv contesting at the wall. Definitely an interesting choice for him. See if he might be able to collect something early. I don't know, Anarchy is kind of freestyling a little bit with that torch. Arv is still close up in the battle, waiting to see if he might get some action on the prone below. C4 being ready for the toss. Anarchy must have heard the rip of the Velcro. He starts to back off. Arv will put it away. Things still remain a tense stalemate between the Cade and his hard-breaching counterpart.
Well, there's that Nitro Cell. Anarchy takes a lot of damage, but the most important thing is they are alive and well, and could use that torch in other sectors of the map. And speaking of that, the other side of the map is completely owned by NC State. However, do they know that the stairwell that they fought so hard to achieve is about to be occupied by a member of the Akron defense? They have a flank drone, and True should be able to monitor any type of shenanigans that IMAT, one of the best flankers in Collegiate, could do.
There's Taco leading the charge. He does help to avenge the massive portion of damage dealt to Anarchy in that early round situation. NCSU, I think you would have predicted the way they came about this rotation. They've got that main wall open. They've got the initial pressure to cover the rotates. Now they just need to secure control of this construction area. The little wrinkle that might change things here is how JetCon looks to play below. We know that he could easily rotate over through Wolf and put a C4 up through that hatch, which might foil NCSU's plans. However, Taco now taking damage as well. It might not be that vertical pressure that really has the most serious impact if you've got IMAT willing to just stand up and take the punches.
He's going to have to, because he's not long for this world. His deployable shield was broken. There was nades whizzing over his head. Anarchy gets a free kill on IMAT, and that's to be expected. Now you're going to have to kind of substitute IMAT's life with somebody on the other side of the map, and that's going to be Hennessy, who's playing in Rafters. They have a very long line of sight, and while they're one of the chief defenders at preventing players from just starting to flood into sight, and that's going to need to happen right now from NC State, because they don't have a lot of time. Sure, they have the man advantage, and finally Rai is going to make the initiative to go for the plan. Still members of Akron looking well. Drew's overly aggressive trying to cover Rai, but it's now all on Hennessy on the other side of the map, again in Rafters, and with the main breach open, they have so many angles to challenge, and they end up looking in the wrong direction.
Such a positive note for that attack to begin on, showing us NCSU's power. They're a good team out of Oregon. They also know the traditional rigmarole that we do get on Clubhouse as well. They take the first round of the second half, and I think we're probably going to arrive at overtime, Chief. That's just my prediction so far with how the first half goes 3-3. Now you've got NCSU immediately showing us their comfortability on CCTV, and I'd like to draw a comparison here. NCSU go to attack Akron's first choice of that second floor CCTV and cache bomb site. We didn't see it in the NCSU rotation. North Carolina State choose to go to the bar site rather than even touch CCTV.
Well, the bomb sites that have been kind of a coin toss or up in the air, not working yet for both teams' defenses. We now go downstairs to the defense, or probably downstairs to the basement, which the defense has been able to clean up both times. Again, only 2 showings of it. So is Akron going to be able to carry that forward? Well, we're going to have to see what type of defense they elect to bring. Because NC State, when they were playing down here, it was a full expansive roam where they had defenders all across the map. Now with Akron starting to reinforce the kitchen hatch, the bar hatch, and Arv completing the stock hatch, Reese is starting to look more like Akron's going to try to go for a full site anchor rather than an absolute roam.
Which isn't a bad call, but it does give NCSU a lot of leverage if they can start off early, especially with good cutoff drones. If North Carolina State just sort of cruise in and they don't waste a lot of time, when you've got all the right tools, when you've got the ability to create that vertical pressure via your sledge and open up all the hatches, no problem, things could become so overwhelming. Not to, by the way, ignore the fact that we have a fuse being brought by Taco. Not an operator I would have really predicted to come into a composition about maybe 6 months ago.
And that's the beauty of the new attacker repick, is it gives you flexibility to select more atypical operators, if you will, because to be fair, they do have a pocket thermite charge. Fuse has the ability to be a secondary hard breacher if needed. I mean, Habana is banned after all, and plus the hockey pucks can go nuclear.
And, you know, I think we had a conversation, actually, about Fuse on this objective on a Cafe cast a couple months ago.
We did, and I said that I absolutely adore Fuse. And I was trying not to, smile too much when I was talking about Fuse. I was trying to, say that Fuse is a cool dude to have, but you're absolutely right. Fuse can change the course around. I mean, especially if you're getting impact trick. You see Hennessy in the side of the map? Well, he has impact grenades. He's trying to remove one of those pocket thermite charges. He's not, because there's explosive hockey pucks near him. So he just yeets himself to the other side of the map, and there you go. Fuse is the best operator in the basement. You heard it here first.
Sorry, ladies and gentlemen, the impact trick has been canceled by your friendly man of Fuse. He's created all the different kinds of pressure that you would need towards that back of Arsenal area, and NCSU have so much leverage. I think you can kind of chalk this one up to the lack of a roam played out by Akron. They've given away so much that it's allowed NCSU to just form up like concrete, slowly spreading around and constricting the movement, the rotations of the rest of the Zips players. NCSU aren't forgetting the fundamentals, though. They'll begin the process of droning things out. Rai still has plenty of burn left, and the thing I'm more wondering about, does he have any exothermics? He sure does. I think the possibility we could see a church rotate would be quite likely here with how bunkered up these last couple defenders are over by that dummy's corner.
And the best part is, with NC State having +2 operator advantage, in theory, Reese, they have so much darn flexibility, they can do really whatever they want. They're going to elect to go kind of with the old basic, just drop the kitchen hatch, go for a plant, and since you kind of corralled everybody from Akron in a small section of the map, it's going to work wonders, because the theme of today is coverage. And NC State has impeccable coverage, and Akron just can't really leave their hidey holes.
A beautiful example of the attacker repick at work, and an attack from NCSU that looked strong in every corner of the fundamentals. A flawless round. And here comes an Akron pause. They realize, yeah, things are going not so according to plan. Clubhouse was supposed to be the Zips' map pick, and so far things are looking more to the side of the Wolfpack.
We were talking earlier when we were starting the broadcast that Clubhouse was the map that made Akron look like, well, their OG selves. I mean, there's a time where Akron literally won every championship. I mean, it was who's going to finish second, who's going to finish third, because we all knew that Akron was going to be number one. They've been struggling so far this academic year, and they looked brilliant last night in CR6. They were at their old form, and that started here on the Dub House, but now they're starting to make mistakes. And I can't help but notice, but the lethality of Akron, the entry roaming duos, have been really silent.
Yeah, I think that's just something that's incompatible with the way that NCSU have played right now. They're just given so much free territory to kind of move in, set up their players in a couple different spots. And when you've got that fuse as well, he's just firing down. I mean, it really gets all the basics done for NCSU. The fact that Akron aren't trying to play that maybe not so much unpredictable style, but one that's going to try to take the fight to you. I don't think Akron are a team many people would describe as a roster that likes to turtle. You know, they're a team that's got players like IMAT and JetCon who have the power to take those battles to you, and they haven't tried that so far on their defenses. It's a big reason why they've just lost these two.
And CCTV did not go their direction. Basement did not go their direction. And honestly, Reese, I'm expecting that we're going to see gym bedroom or basement again. We're not going to go back to CCTV this next round. And it's going to be a round where Akron is going to stand their ground, take gunfights. And there's only two possible scenarios there, and you can kind of flip a coin and decide which one it's going to be. Akron is either going to just wipe the floor with NC State, they're going to end the round, heat it up, and they're going to be, again, that Akron of old that we were talking about yesterday on Dub House, or they're going to get kind of smacked down by the bulldozer of NC State. It's all going to be about this round. It's all going to be about the gunfights that Akron elects to take, because this is either a huge confidence booster for a team that needs no confidence, or it's going to be kind of the start of the stall horn.
Well, I'm hoping now that they've had that pause, they've had an opportunity to discuss maybe some corrections to the game plan coming into Clubhouse here. They can give us, you know, a little bit more of a healthier defense on your club. They're going to go to gym. To be honest, if you had asked me, I maybe would have predicted that they would go to one of the sites that they've already played, try to take some of the lessons that NCSU have shown them and make some adjustments, because I don't know if going to a new site is really going to breathe any different life when NCSU have proven to us that they are just so fluid in the way that they rotate. The ability for them to correctly and efficiently set up some of their starting positions and execute from those positions has been nearly untouchable.
According to the rounds, or at least the games that NC State has officially published maps for, the last time that they've played Clubhouse in a competitive setting was against Wisconsin back on February 10th. Clubhouse is not a standard map in their repertoire, at least for the maps that they're officially publishing, that they've played on. So this is interesting that NC State, having little experience, almost 2 months since the last showing of this map, is coming out against probably Akron's best map.
Exothermic open, they're going to try to put that pressure towards the extension, and we'll see if IMAT does kind of play that barbarian bruiser style of play, or if he's just going to give it up and not really hang out here for too long. Taco will be the first player to come in from Rafter's side and start to cripple parts of the different extension being played here. Akron will soon have to make a very clear-cut decision how they're going to hold this. Hennessy's shield has just been destroyed. There's nobody on pinch pressure below. They don't need it because Hennessy doesn't make a very smart call trying to run back through this rotate.
Such a hard place to be. Like, you have to elect to go down the red stairs, which a lot of teams have somebody lurking, waiting for that runoff. In this case, NC State didn't, and Hennessy decided that the less of the evils would be running in through the breach. Again, it's an impossible scenario. It's an impossible decision, and that's going to, once again, free up the gun barrels of NC State for the next few seconds to take their map control, move closer to the bomb site, get on their R60 explosive drones, start to remove utility, and with that control, they can now start to pressure maybe JetCon in the middle floor going for that roam, or IMAT and Logi.
Somebody needs to step up here for Akron and try to punch it back a little bit, because NCSU are not really feeling too much fear, let's be honest. They've just been allowed to kind of set up themselves and work all the different angles. Mute Jammer finally now cleared, and the rest of the Selma will go ahead and detonate. You still have JetCon lurking below. There isn't anybody trying to push down here. And the problem I have with this, Brian, JetCon's not got any utility that's going to make playing in this location particularly helpful. The only thing he would really have is the Evil Eyes to maybe act off of some kind of intel. Now that you've lost Arv, the situation becomes just that much more dire, and the Maestro forced into making a play. Finally, somebody just says, I've had enough. But Chobu now just gets down by a Selma. How can this one get so much worse? A 2 versus 2, and JetCon finally back into the midst of things. The coverage will fail for Anarchy. You've got IMAT outside the building. He'll go prone, pops back up. Time about to run out on Anarchy here, and he's looking for the frag. He can't even make it through the rotate. JetCon will attempt to swing Anarchy into red time now. 0-0 the plant attempt, and JetCon will go ahead and finish it out. That's the kind of play we need from the Akron mid-round.
Akron had the man disadvantage, they had a positional disadvantage, and as you were mentioning, they had the utility disadvantage. NC State starts to whip everything in the kitchen sink into the bottom side, and I already wrote in my notes, NC State won that round. Because they should have, Reese. They absolutely should have. As soon as the Alda was removed in bathroom, it's a free plant most of the time. And NC State has had impeccable coverage on their plants going into the post plant. And that was the one round where they just had a lapse in coverage, a lapse in coordination, and the Akron defenders at a large man disadvantage was simply able to win their gunfights. You could run that scenario a million times in an algorithm, and NC State is simply going to win it probably 100% of the time. That was, I guess, the one anomaly.
And it just came down to JetCon, I think, stopping up the plant, and NCSU maybe trying to hurry it up a little bit too much there. Akron with a well-needed round, helping to reinforce maybe some topics that were discussed during the tactical timeout, and it does not allow NCSU to immediately move on to map point. You know, if NCSU can steal out Akron's pick here of Clubhouse, the chances for the Zips to come back on the second and advance to the championship round here in the R6 Collegiate Championship would look to me pretty unlikely.
Ooh, this is a fun Cade Claw. So the way Cade works is you kind of have a proximity effect. So it has a giant circle, and if it's in the circle, it gets electrocuted, and if it's not in the circle, it doesn't get electrocuted. And so if you learn some map placements and some map knowledge, you can put some Cade Claws in some very odd positions, and that is one of those odd positions, because if you're an attacker, Reese, you're going to be trying to Maverick Torch it away, you're going to try to throw nades and destroy it, but if it's on a completely different floor, you're just not going to have that luxury to be able to do so. So NC State's either going to have a premeditated drone on the first floor to identify it, or use the Maverick Torch and hope that Anarchy has enough of that blowtorch to be able to open up multiple walls.
Well, NCSU having gotten back to business here on CCTV. Akron, yeah, they're not going to be trying that bottom floor bar stock as much as it does make me sad. Okay, here we go for Arv. Gonna try for it, and he sure does get it. Wasn't as successful last time, but he has eliminated Anarchy before the Maverick could complete the trick, which is a huge takeaway for Akron, and it gives them the opening pick as well, which they haven't really had too terribly much this series. NCSU surprisingly have been in command for that stat line.
Wait, where's the other Cade Claw? So we know one's on Con, but in theory, nothing's really stopping NC State from rotating another hard breacher on over and opening up the wall. Now, there could be something. I guess it could be an impact grenade to destroy that precious bit of utility, but there's no mute jammer on the main wall. So, I mean, sure, you've lost one of your best players. You've lost a set of nades, but NC State should be able to rectify this relatively easily. There's Rai. The exothermic charge is going to detonate, and there's just nothing that Akron's going to be able to do about it.
Well, despite the early death of the Mav, the wall does get open, and Predator is there for the coverage. The Cade trying to step into it. Arv catches so much damage. Probably should have just took that first one onto the Maverick and ran with it rather than getting greedy and trying to use the AUG to one-up the LMGE. That is a very easy victory for Predator, and even despite that, he still does take some damage. Grenade on the bounce, fails to get the Evil Eye there. It's got to be a bit frustrating for Drew. They're going to have that vision laid on towards the balcony to know that nobody from NCSU is inside of server. They have 35 seconds, and they have yet to clear this electrification. IMAT still lurking below, but without a C4.
Oh, they're just going to say, you know what, we're going to go for the plant. They run straight into sign. Nitrocells miss their targets, and NC State's fast rush working out brilliantly for them. Akron has players scrambled throughout the site, or throughout the map, and it's now just Hennessy and Rafters. And all to 82 bullets could be good for multiple kills, but they're going to have to start to fish for headshots sooner rather than later. And, well, they do fish for headshot, but it's against them, and what a brilliant read by NC State to just run in through the door when they give up on the breach.
I mean, hey, sometimes you just gotta throw something at the wall, see if it sticks, and it really did stick there. Akron let slip through that mistake. I think part of it does come to IMAT. Why would he be below if he didn't have a C4? I mean, you're kind of
Defending the
ineffectual
Cade
down there. I guess so, but ultimately NCSU said the Cade doesn't matter to us, and we're going to move past it. I think IMAT a little slow in the rotation. You can't put the entirety of the blame on him, though. The rest of the Akron members failed to hold that crossfire.
To be fair, you should expect something like that to take place, right? The wall's not open. There's 20 seconds left on the clock. Most attacking teams are going to look at their watch, realize that Father Time is kind of telling them that you need to do something, and most teams are going to elect to do that as their something, right? You like YOLO in through a door frame, and I guess Akron was caught off guard, which is strange, Reese, because that's a strategy that Akron would use normally.
It is, yeah, and maybe they're just not entirely prepared to encounter it on their defensive effort. I don't know. It's kind of a weird, gray area. I think for IMAT, you know, as much as he was defending that Cade Claw down there, I agree 100% with your assessment. However, it is kind of unknown known, to put it in terms, because he knew, yes, okay, my Cade Claw is still down here. I need to protect it, but NCSU are not just going to sit in construction frustrating themselves forever. And maybe as the player down there, you just need to think, okay, yeah, they're going to clear this. If they don't clear it, you know, they're going to have to come down here to get it, and it's not like you can just climb back up the hatch. You would probably then rotate to push red for that player. And I don't know. We're kind of hyper-fixating on that topic, though, so we'll go back to the repeat of this site to see if Akron can change things. It's really shocking for them to have, you know, gotten the opening pick like they did last time against the Mav, but then lost the round even still despite that. I guess that's a credit to NCSU.
It certainly is. Arv was attempting to go for Deja Vu, trying to maybe find Anarchy 2 rounds in a row, but Anarchy was smart about putting their body in the right position, as well as opening up that highway window. Can't say the same thing about Taco, though. The other hard breacher in the lineup ends up falling just a little bit early on in this series, and the Selma charges were one of the key attacking devices to open up CCTV in the first showing of this bomb site back in round 7, at least the first showing of the Akron defense. And, well, there's a strong power position and power utility for them no longer available, just like Maverick wasn't available in the previous round.
There's Arv stacking more and more bodies, and Akron have the man advantage, and they've been able to convert another pick, but a grenade, even a flashbang in, it doesn't do anything. That was a really risky call for Rai. And NCSU looking down and out of things on the repeat of Cash and CCTV. Anarchy will look to maybe just sneak in through this construction door. In fact, he does. Catches 2! Anarchy blasting his way through the site. He may have a third. The head will evade him as the player chases down the stairs. A C4 away lane toss from JetCon fails to really strike much towards its target. And Drew is still outside. Anarchy has left the bomb site, given up that control. But the heroics there from the Maverick, 13 kills for Anarchy, may be just enough for NCSU to come roaring back to life.
But it all comes back to the death of Rai, though. When they vaulted in, they dropped the diffuser, and the members of Akron basically made a brand new bomb site, and it's forcing what was left of Anarchy to deal with that. Drew's the last one left, and sure, everybody from Akron is off site, but it really doesn't matter when they're just camping this darn diffuser. It's a crossfire that Drew's going to have to break down. IMAT and Jobu, a perfect 180-degree crossfire, and really Drew's going to have to decide where to challenge. You're going to try to use a nade to force away the Akron defenders, but reset utility is purely in vain. An incredible shot. IMAT falls, but with 5 seconds left, and the bomb site basically a huge light year distance away. It doesn't matter.
Well, that one looked a little crazy for a moment. I mean, that was kind of crazy start to finish with the decision-making from NCSU. They're pushing in against Akron and just getting isolated, not being there for the trade game, which was not a concept NCSU really had to worry about in some of their other rounds. And, well, Akron have just dropped the difference to this last round, pending a possible overtime. I was predicting overtime earlier, and I certainly would still say that it is on the cards here, but NCSU could shut this down and quickly get us over to Oregon if they really lock in for gym and bedroom.
And this bomb site was kind of up in the air for me. Basement is a strong bomb site. Yesterday, Akron didn't lose the bomb site once. They played it once here today against NC State, and they ended up losing it. And they lost it pretty decisively. So they brought out Jim Bedroom after that technical timeout where they talked amongst themselves. They were able to put together a victory on Jim Bedroom. But Reese, I'm going to be a bit blunt here. I don't think Akron should have won that round. Again, that was the round where NC State had every ounce of utility left. They still had nades, they still had flashbangs, they had a large man advantage, a +2 man advantage, and they kind of fumbled the bag going for the plant. It was way too close of a round. It was a round where Akron had to kind of clutch to save the day, and NC State looked very strong here, and I doubt that they're going to be a roster that makes the same mistake twice.
No, I agree. I don't think they will. I think for NCSU, what I would tack on here is they tried to get the plant down when they weren't entirely too prepared for it. You know, NCSU, when they can, they have tried for the objective play. 3 successful plants by Rai so far. And they just need to kind of realize when it is the appropriate moment for it. When you've got a player that's kind of lurking up by that main stairs area, you know, the master bedroom itself doesn't have many great plant locations. It's usually gym and bedroom more often that you'll see players, you know, try for. When you've got all the vertical open, it does kind of get a little chaotic, though, and you kind of have to just make a decision, go for a plant location, and kind of just stick it. But I would certainly look to NCSU. Getting the opening kill is probably the largest determiner of where they're going to go in this round.
Well, Hennessy was that opening kill earlier. They're still alive and well. They've hightailed it back to that bomb site. And, you know, if we look at the side of Akron, everybody's kind of done their job so far. JetCon maybe just a little bit more with that top frag. But if we look at the side of NC State, they're much more even on the kill department, and that's something that NC State can use as a leveraging point to find that opening kill, and they're going to have to kind of do that relatively soon, Reese, because you have control of cache CCTV. That's all fine and dandy, but you need a little bit more control, and that's going to be from construction. The R6D drone breaks down the deployable shield, so where's NC State? They need to be behind that drone ASAP, and they're not yet.
Akron, little over 60 seconds, looking to string together these last 2 inside of regulation. They've got a multitude of different tools. They've got the ability to fight in that mid-range. Malusi, Maestro, Thorn, all of these weapons capable of standing up to the attacking pressure. In goes Taco. An impact trick thought about for a moment. The mute jammer, though, I believe still protecting Jobu, something that they will have to clear. Looking at what NCSU have got, I don't know if they have the tools in order to clear that jammer.
Well, they're going to have to start to whip something. You got to use a flashbang, a nade to break down a potential ADS. There are actually no ADSs, so you do have the tools. Just rotate a grenade over, guys, and you'll be all fine and dandy. But NC State having so little time, they're just not going to have that luxury. I hear the Selma detonating in the background, so I think that nade did end up making its way. And with Jobu's death, I think that's only confirmed. Arv in the middle of the site, kind of stuck between, again, that hammer and anvil, and it's a flood on forward. Rai getting shot at, still goes to the plant. They're going to go DB and no to the impact grenade, and now everybody from NC State starting to scramble. You have to find the diffuser. Anarchy picks it up, and Taco in from behind. NC State certainly panics during the final few seconds of that round, but it's still good enough to take the victory here on Clubhouse and move us over to the NC State map choice of Oregon.
Wolfpack still focused in there on that match point scenario. They close it out without a need for overtime, and they open up the series 1-0 by snatching up their opponent's map pick on that very last round of regulation. Things looking pretty popular so far for NCSU. Their attacks, even despite having a couple quirks here or there, I love that call. Just get the grenade in. We know what we need to do. We trust our assignments, and we got everything we needed for that gym attack.
And as you're alluding to, there's moments where NC State was kind of panicking. Their hair was on fire. They're like, oh no, I have no time left. I must do something. But they always seem to find the right something, whether or not it was just crashing or removing those defenders. And I think what that comes back to, and I hate to talk about this, it's just a simple scoreboard. I mean, every player on the side of NC State was either double digits or about to approach double digits. And that's very rare in a map that goes 12 rounds, right? There's always one support player that, isn't always clicking his head or clicking heads, and it's always the entry kind of going nuclear, but everybody from NC State was doing their job perfectly. And it's funny that we're talking about clicking heads. That's usually kind of the praise that we give Akron, but today they just seemed, I don't know, they didn't seem as sharp as their gun skill tends to be.
And I think it maybe does kind of come back again to that discussion of the fact that they're having to play with a substitute. They don't have Fozo. He's kind of the main IGL for this roster. He does so well on his roles, having that PL experience, knowing what it's like to play against the top level of Rainbow Six Siege. We've got Oregon ahead of us. It's always been NCSU's strongest map, and it seems to always will be. But if Akron want any chance to fight back here and bring us to the decider, they'll have to win out on Oregon. We'll see you after the break. Well, welcome back to the R6 Collegiate Championship. We're here in the Final Four, and our semifinals match between Akron and NCSU has just finished up with map number 1. It was maybe not the best result for the Akron Zips playing with a substitute tonight, Chief, as NCSU, the Wolfpack, have cruised on to a 7-5 victory, and Oregon looks to be a familiar return to their old stomping grounds.
And you know, Reese, I'm just so conflicted on this talk about the substitute because it's not like we've picked up some random off the street,
No.
put an Akron jersey on them, calling them a Zips and say, all right, go click heads, right? Like, it's Arv. Arv is a legacy player. If you were to create a poll of some of the best collegiate players, Arv is on that list, right? Arv is a great player. So it's not like you picked up some silver and they can't shoot back. It's Arv. Arv is the GOAT. I know Fozo is too. I know Fozo is an XPL player, but it's Arv, dude.
Yeah, you do have a fair point there. I think the problem is you look at the roles that we have. You know, Arv is coming in for Fozo. Fozo has kind of changed the way that this team has played entirely, because before he came onto the roster, Akron were in a really bad downturn. And now that he's come back, during the CR6 interview last night when Akron took on and defeated Converse, Fozo talked in the interview about how they had to totally reorganize their structure, and they completely wiped out, a lot of the components that they used to play with. Now they're under a new system, and the fact that Fozo isn't here to lead that system, I think, is part of the problem tonight.
Well, we're just going to have to hope that Akron has taken the time during their 5-minute break to talk amongst themselves. And we kind of seen a precedent today, Reese, about them taking the time, talk amongst themselves, correct errors. That was the gym bedroom defense that they successfully won back on Clubhouse. So when they deliberate, when they work amongst themselves, we know Akron is capable of greatness, but they're going to have to do it here because they do not want to go home in the semifinals.
Yeah, that would not be really the situation you would want to eventuate here. I mean, Akron are active in so many different leagues, and a point that we haven't talked much about, Akron obviously are here in the semifinals. They got to the semifinals by having played with Arv in all of their matches so far. So, in my opinion, while you certainly have two different teams, there have been quite a number of matches that Akron has had to play, going through the Swiss system, making it through the bracket, until now having not been eliminated. Akron should be used to playing with Arv, and to be honest, to me, I feel like your point starts to become even more relevant. Arv is not some random guy off the street, and it's not like today is the first time he's been substituted in either. This should be an Akron roster that plays to a similar level of expectation.
Well, we're going to have to see if they rise to the occasion right now. It's Oregon, it's NC State's map choice, and this has been a roller coaster of a map recently. Sometimes it feels like it is just a paradise for the defenders where there's just nothing the attackers can do, and then sometimes the attackers have so much wind underneath their sail they're able to expedite their hard breaching, whether or not it's the hatches downstairs in the basement, the site that we're currently going to, or the games wall, the attic wall. I mean, there's so many places where sometimes the attackers can open it up for free in the first 45 seconds, and the defenders, especially in dorms, just kind of sit there with their feet in their desk saying, uh-oh, I'm in danger.
Yeah, things do get a little chaotic, right? You get into that late humdrum of the round, and things are more stressful. Oregon is kind of a stressful map. I don't feel very stressed out on it. It's my home map. I get to kind of come here and vibe and enjoy an area that I'm very familiar with. I feel like, at least for me, Oregon has always been a fun map to watch in comp. It does get stale. All maps get stale, though. Diversity is the spice of life. But the way that NCSU play on Oregon, it's so refreshing, right?
Now, I will say, I want to... It's time for scary, boring statistics with Chief Gas. So strap yourself in, my friend. Throughout the academic year, this map has only been played 4 times by Akron. Won 4 times by Akron and lost 2 times by Akron. So it's not a map that I would say is in their repertoire, but it's a map that they at least set a precedent on that they're relatively strong on. The only times that they've lost it has been to Alabama Huntsville, and they did beat Converse here early in the year.
I have a quick question about that stat. How many of those times was Oregon played in R6CC, right? Because if it's in any of the other leagues, I'm assuming Fozo was probably there.
That's a good question. I don't know if I have that relatively available. I'm sure I could find that out. I see one Oregon played in R6CC. That was against ISU back in February 12th.
Okay, so I don't know if I would fully put the credit on that matchup if you're playing against ISU. You know, we got Snail over there. He's a certain quantity. But, yeah, it is interesting to note that kind of extra level of depth to the numbers. Are the opening casualty, but I'm out on a quick trade against Taco.
Well, skirmish taking place, but I guess it all ends and ends well, right? And there's equal trades back and forth, but a little bit lopsided in favor of NC State because you still have control of the top floor. You're able to use the Habana charges to open up the E-Box hatch, and now you're in a perfect position. You have the flexibility of going down the 3 stairwells, whatever NC State elects. You can even go down a non-stairwell through the dirt tunnel into the bunker section and pressure the deployable shield. NC State has a lot of time, a lot of real estate to work with, and right now the burden is on their drones to identify where Akron is playing to make the right decision.
Here comes the last sort of stage of the burn. NCSU on the drop down. Anarchy ascertains control of Pillar. They'll have a couple different members playing sort of reserved here for the rest of the defense. They have chosen to stay open on this elbow wall. We're going to leave this up. The shield goes goodbye. The ADS failing to have captured that. Hennessy on the response, keeping us in an equal bout. The reinforcement goes up and to lock off that elbow rotation. NCSU, their opportunities to come into the site starting to dwindle a little bit. Still maintaining coverage on that flank, though, making sure nobody tries to flank down on them through that meeting drop.
And with green barricades watching the south side of the map, it's really hard for NC State to go for anything other than what they're committed to right now, especially with time being a factor. I think that north push through E-Box is either going to be the victory moment for NC State here in round number 1 or kind of their burial ground. They're flirting with toxic gas grenades. Jobu still has one more, and NC State needs to start to click heads. Anarchy falls, so the head clicking not quite going their direction. Predator is going to attempt to go for a deep pressure push, maybe to have Drew go for a plant, but Drew's lost in the sauce. They get felled by the shotgun, and well, it was looking great for NC State, but with 100 seconds to play with, they elected to really do nothing with that time.
I think maybe if you had tried to put some extra pressure on that elbow wall as well, that really would have made the round more possible there. And Akron to start off their defense by closing down on the basement site. We know it to be the best in the rotation here, but for NCSU, a couple mistakes. Not, crucial structure mistakes, not something that totally sidelined the round. They got everything done in their normal progression, but just to clean up at the end, sometimes those small differences do really make a world of change. On the rotation out, let's go to dorms. Let's go to the top floor and see if Akron are going to play this one anything like how they did on Clubhouse. You're introducing the Oryx. I have really had plenty of good games for IMAT on Oryx so far that I managed to catch. He is a ferocious roamer. And having that Rema-dash, having that ability to climb up the hatches, makes him just such a pest.
Because there's nothing you can do to deny an IMAT flying through a hatch, right? Like, you can bring out gridlocks. You can bring out a Nomad. Maybe you can bring out a Zero and keep tabs of IMAT flying in through hatches, but there's nothing you can really do to stop him, especially if you got him pinned down in a room with a hatch. Well, he's just going to kind of fly away like Peter Pan, and you're kind of back to square one. So IMAT is a terror, and they're going to be a terror throughout this map, and particularly on this bomb site. I like what he's doing downstairs, too, to help his roam. He's, well, running through walls, breaking the walls to kind of give him this nice little IMAT highway, the IMAT avenue on the mid-floor of dorms.
The IMAT interstate, maybe you could say. He's able to just move constantly, keep that fluid state of motion. It's going to be tough for NCSU to try to lock him down, and that's even if they will try it at all. It might be something that you just look to avoid, and it does bring me back to NCSU a little bit earlier. We had that moment on Clubhouse, right, where there was that roam that was being played, and the offense just chose not to put the pressure on it, rather go for the site play itself. Ultimately, that did not work out. So here on the dorms play so far, NCSU having pressure in attic, but also still looks like a contingent by the small tower. So they may look to put some pressure on JetCon. We know the value of the kitchen vert is incredibly high, but other than the grenades, you don't have maybe your traditional buck to try to create that pressure.
I think you just need to remove those roamers. That's kind of step one. And, well, I guess NC State's going to get that map control relatively for free because JetCon's going to fall away. But, I mean, NC State isn't really in a comfortable position. They have just opened up the wall, and have they shut down any of the avenues back to site? Not really, because NC State is very focused on the west side, and JetCon's roam, sure, he wasn't able to find a kill. They've wasted time, and they're back home.
The wasted time here is pretty much the most important factor. NCSU were pretty slow going after they kind of got their simple stuff set up in the previous round. Here's a grenade. Predator looking to put it on Hennessy's position, and it's good on the money. Hennessy down and a shield removed as well. A nice 2-for-1 deal for Predator and his security pressure.
Uh-oh, more pressure. This is from Attic right now, and Taco has it underneath his thumb. A little bit too much of a send with his pots that expand, and the track stingers will do out damage, but the gun barrel wasn't up. That player who did get that kill, though, was DB Anode, and Predator's now fully into sight. I'm at the last one alive. No Rima dashing through the hatches. They're electing the heads-up gunfight, but they get stuck in the track stingers, and they die to the poor track stingers. As I called them, the potted pans. Well, they sizzle up a great concoction in the end, the death I'm at.
Predator with a nice comment on top of that as well. Yeah, you really undervalue the impact of those track stingers when they come down late in the game, despite the fact that Taco died. Ouchie is correct. Akron getting a little bit too ahead of themselves there. And MCSU, I think, showing us that slow does not always mean ineffectual. They were able to manage the many different elements that they needed for that attack and ultimately executed on that big window plan. And Akron could not resist against it. They didn't have any kind of denial utility. When you play this Oryx and Alibi light up and you're dropping out of smoke from your composition, you are kind of somewhat weak to that. And if you don't hold down strongly enough the roam below, and you allow NCSU to, put those grenades in. I mean, take a look at this objective. So many areas vulnerable to nades from below. It's hard to find a spot here that you can actively hold and stop the plant without being blown up from underneath.
That's why the grandiose roam for Akron has to sit a little bit longer to continue to waste time. Now, I think I needed to address the elephant in the room. Still no Nomad, but it's the Gridlock back in play. And you know what? The Gridlock got the final kill. I've been a doubter of the Gridlock for a very long time, but you know what? If you're getting 10 tick damage every single time you walk on one, I mean, you may as well use it. I mean, Reese, let's be honest. When was the last time you've seen anybody take damage or die to a track stinger in a comp match?
It has been a very long time since that's happened. So long ago, I don't even really remember the last time it was. The Gridlock is something that NCSU have really used a lot on their Oregon, though. They almost never much run a Nomad. Often, sometimes, they will actually choose to ban the Nomad. Today, it just so happened that Akron removed Flores, so NCSU felt responsible to ban out the Thatcher and have that Nomad come through. But we're back here once again. IMAT and JetCon on their double roam action, but they're going to face some pressure from NCSU, who have done that consistently on this site. IMAT prepping for a run out, looking for his target. He spots one in the distance and drags across the head. He'll give over the entry pick to the Zips.
Not only was there a drone removed there, but that's Drew off the board. The artillery barrage of grenades is going to suffer a loss of a set of grenades. That's 2, so bringing the total down to 4 total grenades, or 2 sets of grenades. So while NC State still has a lot of firepower, they're going to have to be much more precise with where they place that bits in. They're also going to have to use the drones that are starting to kind of dwindle away to grab critical information, maybe the deployable shield placed in the same spot, where they're just going to have to confirm that with utility. Or you can rotate Rai over to the big window and maybe tease the hallmarks of an early execute.
Hoping that they can sort of use this LMG as kind of a sentry gun to hold out this big window pressure. Maestro still constant in his rotation. Rai. Waiting for the moment. You can see the long barrel of that gun. The problem here, you could get naded from below. And Predator has exactly that in his thoughts. Here goes the grenade. It does some damage to Hennessy. Nothing conclusive. And Predator will come forward with a second. Hennessy chooses not to move. A decision that gets himself killed. And so down goes the LMG. That weakens up the big window. Maybe now NCSU can start to think about coming in on that vault play.
They still need to be very mindful of a flank in play. That's why Anarchy is just holding the angle, but they don't know where JetCon is in a completely different stairwell, and Anarchy is meters away from certain demise, skirts around the alibi, which would red ping him if he touched it. That's probably the audio cue. It's a pin being pulled. JetCon good for a second, and it's going to leave Rai on the roof. Sure, they have the diffuser, my friend, but you got 18 seconds. You got 4 members of the Akron defense to find. Sure, you can even say that the armory wall is open, but this is going to be a purely hopeless round for Anarchy, or for Rai, and I think they're just going to bait on the roof and kind of use the next 20 seconds to deliberate and plan for their next attack, which would be downstairs in the basement.
Well, Akron showing us with a couple of key changes, they can pretty much turn the tides, reverse the fortunes. Last time on that top floor, it was a 4 versus 1 closeout, and things look really good for NCSU. Akron go back there. They play maybe a tad bit more aggressive. I certainly think the main door runout is a contributing factor to that. And NCSU failing to recover from the disadvantage. They were careful. They were paying attention to the roam. Ultimately, it came from an area that they had forgotten about. Bottom of the freezer stairs, and Akron had not only 1 kill off the back of that freezer stairs play, but also a second as the alibi crossed the hallway. And NCSU, the inability to trade out that pressure, so far starting to dig a little bit of a hole here on Oregon.
Now, the strength of this downstairs bomb site, Reese, is the attacker's ability to be unpredictable. Because the 3 stairwells, the dirt tunnel, the hatches, I mean, there's so many places that an attacking team can push for, especially if you're Akron, losing the opening death the last time that we saw basement back in round 1 with Arv's death. I mean, you kind of have to look at so many places, and you just don't have enough gun barrels, and that's why teams tend to open up green barricades. They try to tease multiple executes. NC State did not do that. They fatal funneled from one portion of the map, all from the north, and it is imperative, Reese, that NC State has more creativity, more flair to their attack. They could still do a north execute if they want, but they need to just say, hey, Akron, if I want to, I could push down any one of these stairwells, and you just won't know.
I mean, you definitely don't want to do the same thing every time, and not only do you want to have multiple different ways you can execute, because it's valuable to change up your plan, having the ability to rotate is huge as well. If your back take isn't working because you've got, a really aggressive hold inside elbow that's just proving to be too difficult to clear, maybe rethink things and try to go for more front and freezer pressure. Maybe that would be an area that's more weakened. Or perhaps you could sort of fool Akron into rotating their utility and then again pressure elbow when the ADSs have been adjusted, and you don't have to worry about that, wasting so much time. For NCSU, stepping already into the first floor, but there is that roamer to worry about over on the west side.
And also, R's position the previous round up on the tower's stairs. They've corrected that and put themselves down towards the pillar portion. So already Akron making adjustments from the last time that we saw this bomb site. Even Akron winning is still willing to make adjustments. That is kind of something that demonstrates the competency of Akron, and still with perfect discipline of JetCon to just continue to lurk over in security, because NC State is focused on doing one thing and one thing only, their north execute. They are potentially missing a lot of strong avenues for their attacking approach, because Arv is also still in pillar.
Drew's the one to step in about it. Looking towards that shield, there's nobody behind it. Drew is just going to sort of sneak on by. They've given up on this elbow hold, but Arv striking early helps to make up for the loss of that power position. Taco is dead in the response. Predator with a nade forward, Banshee cleared. Some of the utility starting to make way, and Rai actually opening up elbow this time. Jobu is not going to be able to play at Florida. He has to rotate back, and so all the different angles now starting to come together for NCSU. The fact that they've opened up the single wall as well. 40 seconds to play with. I don't think this one is beyond the realm of possibility.
Certainly with the new holes being opened by X-Cairo pellets, it adds a lot of flexibility to the NC State angles to be held. And Drew's just going to be very passive, waiting for IMAT to do exactly this, push on forward. But what about the defending utility of NC State? You still got one more toxic gas grenade, and, well, with now 17 seconds left. Rai is going to have to wait for that to dissipate. Plus, once you start to factor in Hennessy and JetCon's position over by Freezer, those are powerful positions. Drew smokes Hennessy, and that might be allowing the members of NC State to start to flood in through side. Rai initiates a plan, and once again, the storyline of perfect coverage is there for NC State as the LMGs that they brought out just continue to hold Mouse One number one, and that first shot in the series, whew, that was spicy.
That was such a clean double play there by the last attacker on that highway position. NCSU with a much better done execute. All it took was just opening up that elbow wall. They pushed the defenders back, and they felt claustrophobic. Akron were boxed out of that storage area. And NCSU clean up their attacks. I think putting things back on the right foot. Akron feel that maybe they were wronged a little bit on that basement site. They're going to try for it again and see what kinds of changes they can make. I don't know if they're really going to be able to make many, because the way that NCSU just came into that last sort of 60-second minute window was really clean. They did everything they needed to. The wall at single was left reinforced, so they did not have to really worry about much pressure against them in pillar. They were so good at getting rid of the bulletproof utility, and bam, opening up that elbow wall was just the cherry on top.
A change in the Akron defense once again. We're going to be seeing a Cade in play. Now, most likely to defend the E-Box hatch, but where else will that bit of utility go? It's very likely it could go into the long quarter, as I refer to as J bunker, because that was the strength of the NC State offense, right? They use X-Cairo pellets to create lines of sight, so if you don't want that to happen, you bring out either a Mute, Bandit, or a Cade in this back, and there it goes. So now those shenanigans that you suffered in the previous round, they're not going to be here. Wait,
I think
what?
this is a perfect call. Yeah, I don't know what's going on about that Electroclaw. I was, gosh, I can't remember what game it was that I was casting. It was on Oregon, though, and they put the Cade Claw, like, on the stage behind the desk, and it just had no effect on the E-Box hatch. It was so funny.
I mean, you have to put it in the right place. I mean, there's sometimes, like, you just throw it, you can't reach it. It's the most frustrating experience in the world because you wasted one of your Cades, and the attackers get it for free, and you'd be better off bringing a recruit in that case. But with that being said, Arv is going to get aggressive, my friend. The opening death twice, and they're not anymore. A beautiful shot. Taco falls, and well done. And we've seen that battle now. Both basement rounds in a row, back-to-back, both round 4 and 5. It's been a tussle between those two players, but Arv is going to get the final word there.
That's a great way to start this off. Taco only having an opportunity to use one of the Gridlock Intertrack Stingers. And NCSU now working from the deficit. I meant to talk about opening up that single wall is such a smart call because you allowed them to take pillar pressure last time. They did not have to worry about that. I mean, for so long, excuse me, you would always reinforce that. It was like a no-brainer. But teams finally realized, hey, this staircase just becomes a veritable no man's land to push down if we've got an angle that at any moment a defender, especially somebody like Maestro, could just swing into and light you up.
Well, the attackers upstairs, they're kind of stuck in an awkward position, Reese. They're trying to deal with JetCon, who is pestering them through the wall with the bullets whizzing over the NC State's heads. I think they're about to decide, you know what, we don't want to deal with the upstairs anymore. We're going to try to go more direct for a side execute, and that's a wise decision to be had, Reese, because we're now into the final moments of the round, and NC State has the man disadvantage. They lost Taco, which means you lost your flank watch as well as a set of smokes, and Akron's man advantage needs to be broken down ASAP because they got a plethora of utility. You got impact grenades, you got nitros, you got smokes, and you got another dead member of the NC State offense.
Well, here comes a little play. The Jaeger tried to stay and fight inside elbow. Drew was ready for that one. He has long played that coverage from outside at construction. 2 versus 4, 25 to go. Not even nearly as clean as last time things were from NCSU, and it's all really coming down to this single wall, causing so much hesitancy for the Wolfpack. And they're just sort of going to have to form up and try to battle past it. Drew has won. An important kill gets things started. 2 players in the back of Freezer. And Drew will work in. He fails to isolate the Maestro, and that'll lose him the round. Hennessy lines up for 2, and Akron on the reattempt. The basement goes their way. All it took was just opening up that wall and playing a little bit more aggressive defensively.
Jonah yesterday in CR6 referred to, well, Hennessy as the clutch master. And once again, the clutch master strikes again. Maestro, in a perfect crossfire, is able to just to address what NC State was bringing. And Akron, I mean, it's just their time efficiency. They sit back, relax, they wait for NC State to start to pressure the bomb site. That pressure usually begins with about 40 seconds left on the clock. Akron starts whipping bits of utility. They stall out NC State, and then NC State's like, uh-oh, we better start pushing. And then they push and die to the crossfire. I mean, to be fair, you can be the world's best player, and you're just not going to shut down Hennessy because you got one 180-degree split. Like, you're just not going to win that.
I wonder how much things change off the back of Arv getting that opening pick on the Taco as well. Do you think that was really important to the basement?
Oh, it certainly was. Because, again, it was a loss of utility, and it was a loss of the firepower of NC State. One of the things that was their success factor in the basement was kind of their ability to throw bodies at the problem, if you will. If there's somebody that you need to trade, they'll just, well, trade them out by having multiple people challenge simultaneously.
And it's a player of Taco as well. Taco can really step up in a moment. You know, as much as you've got Hennessy, the clutch master, on the Akron side, Taco has seen a fair few 1vx's himself. And when he's not baiting his teammates and he's actually put into a situation where he has to do something, Taco can definitely be somebody to step up for you. I think NCSU really got unsettled on that last basement try, but the Dorm's objective has gone pretty back and forth so far. We've seen two entirely different looks. We've had a round apiece for these teams. Either one of those was very definitive. And so with that in mind, I think it's the early game that really will settle things here. If NCSU get off on the wrong foot, if perhaps they fail to clear some of these roaming elements like JetCon and IMAT, they might sort of feel that extra pressure late into the game. It's Arv who dies first. Either came through attic or from the bottom of the staircase, and the fact that he dies early gives NCSU a lot of leverage.
Well, you asked for roaming pressure to be dealt with. NC State delivers that perfectly. Arv has been the opening death 3 different times so far, taking basically a quarter or half of the rounds that we've seen so far. Not a comfortable position for Akron to be in, and they're going to have to find a way to substitute Arv in some way. And that's going to be just through the sheer mechanical firepower that Akron is known for. Reese, I mean, they're the team that can change the day with a single bullet or maybe a single nitrocell. IMAT, you're below. Throw it. You would have got 2 kills by now. And he's just a little bit delayed, and he doesn't even find a kill there at all, allowing Hennessy to fall to Rai. Oh, IMAT could have just completely changed the course of the round, but a decision that wasn't capitalized on.
Yeah, he just was a little too slow there with the to put the C4 up. And even though he does escape with 1, it could have been 2. It could have traded out Arv's death. Valkyrie is still left on the loose. Anarchy with a grenade in for that attic take, trying to destroy the utility. NCSU, despite being in the man advantage right now, don't look the most comfortable. I think it'll come down to how they can pinch out JetCon below, who still looks relatively free to continue rotating. In the meanwhile, Rai deploying a couple Candelas. JetCon starts to step towards the door, and he catches the LMG player offsides, but Predator on the immediate trade, making sure the Finka's death wasn't for naught. 30 to go, and CSU getting ready to put the last couple ounces of pressure on the side as IMAT will try vigorously to hold back the pressure, but he just can't do it. Jobu, now against 3, the Valkyrie's death confirmed and the plant coming down in a totally secure location. Things are impossible here for Jobu. He comes through the rotate and he dies. NCSU will pick up the final round of the first half.
Honestly, I'm surprised that NC State just didn't leave the roamer downstairs and kitchen to their own devices just to let them to exist, because they didn't have a nitro, they didn't have any throwable utility, and why not just like let them rot downstairs, because you just hold the flank maybe up the white stairs. But NC State, once again, is able to throw bodies at the problem because they have the man advantage. You asked me that question, honestly, going into that round, that's the strength of NC State, just their ability to trade absolutely and always be setting themselves up for crossfires, always be setting themselves up for trades. And NC State's attack, 3-3, is a great position to be in. And Reese, not the first time that we've seen a 3-3 so far today.
No, they went even back on club as well. Did not go even on the second half. Akron kind of failed in the last round and let NCSU just pick up their selection. So, here onto the basement, start of the second half. NCSU, when they came into the second half of club, they looked very authoritative. And I expect the very same thing, probably, I don't know if this seems like a reach to you, Chief, but maybe to an even higher degree. NCSU, their defensive strat book is probably 100 pages thick on Oregon.
I mean, yeah, it 100% is. It's something that both of these teams are well versed in collegiate, and we'll have to see how you counter. That's the hardest thing, right? You can have the world's best strat book, but how does it actually translate into your live match, right? Like the way that I think of it, like you're a football coach, right? You've written this beautiful binder of strats, but when your players in the lobby, I mean, that sometimes goes out the window.
You know, you do have to call audibles at a certain point, and you know, semifinals, maybe that's the right time to kind of swap a couple of things up, not become predictable, but about setting the tempo here in the first round. It's a classic NCSU defensive strategy. The, you know, SSG type roam, something that really became popular for teams to do at the tail end of old Oregon. I know it may seem unfamiliar for some of you if you haven't been around that long, if you never saw the way that Oregon pre-rework all those years back played out. You would extend up above, you would hold as much of the map for as long as possible, but you would play with these hatches open with the final objective, after wasting the majority of the attacker's time, to rotate back and try to just play on the side after having whittled them down.
As the opening death, Predator falls, and we've been talking about the storyline of Akron being the opening death in particular. Well, that story is going to start to shift over as the NC State defense is crumbling under the pressure of Akron. With almost full map authority, you're going to need to start to trade. You're going to need to start to trade fast. Taco does that, but Akron still has the man advantage race, and a player challenging through green. They're going to be forced to hightail it out of there after missing. Drew's in an awkward spot. Taco's going to reattempt the take of the top floor, but NC State seems to be spreading themselves out thin because you only got one player, Rai on the bomb site.
Yeah, there is, you know, sort of a window here for maybe Akron to run down to the side and try to just, you know, whittle down this player. I think they're going to call that. And I like the decision for NCSU to kind of spread themselves thin, because you need multiple different areas of pressure to work this pick back and to get us into the 3-3 territory. The way that you play can totally make or break this round. And Taco coming back on the flank will be such an important element for me. If JetCon fails to have that coverage, the Valk might just be able to upset the balance of this take. Looked like there was a drone at the top of the stairs, and Arv, he just runs right down towards Freeze. Taco is about to come in entirely behind the ranks of the offense here, but Akron may decide to pick up their feet and move a little quicker. A Toxic Babe will hold them at bay for just a moment, and Rai walks in. It's Taco to do the dirty work. He gets the first onto Arv, but JetCon coming into the site will collect all the necessary kills. Akron dispatching the top floor roam and getting into the site excellently.
Easy peasy lemon squeezy for Akron, and impeccable attack for them, and they just looked like they were all on the same wavelength. They pressured together as a team, they fought together as a team. NC State tried to take these gunfights, these heads-up plays on the top floor, but it didn't go for them at all. I mean, Akron just made those gunfights look easy. And from there, I mean, what do you do if you're NC State? You have the man disadvantage. You just fall back to your bomb site, turtle up, and hope you can survive, hope you can use your utility. NC State attempted to do that, but there was just nothing they can do to shut down Akron.
Yeah, that was a very rough start for NCSU there, and such a good round for them to get going on. Akron showing us that their attack is just as ferocious as their defense was, and maybe that's just the way that they're going to play out the rest of this map. We know that we've got Villa on the horizon, and Akron just need 3 rounds offensively in order to get there. But hoping that we don't disconnect from the server. It looked like it was maybe going to happen for a moment. Things are back to normal, though. And NCSU, having lost the first site, they won't repeat. They're going to go to dorms. They're going to try something a little different.
This is the bomb side that feels sometimes so claustrophobic, especially if you have an Akron attacking it the way that they were in the previous round. I mean, there's just nothing you can do to stop a bulldozer of a team, because this bomb site is practically just the bomb site. It's not like it's downstairs where you have buffer rooms that you can expand into and put deployable shields. You just basically got your bomb site proper. And Akron, sure, they have to clear out the map, but from there, where do you go? You do have rumors. Now it's going to be anarchy. Bring out that MK DMR downstairs in the basement, but it's still not quite to the length of the roam that Akron was bringing out when they were playing in bar, Or not bar, dorms.
Yeah, definitely not that huge sweeping extension that's going on every corner of the map, but having all the necessary elements and the opening kill as well. Arv has been down and out in so many moments of this game where he finds himself on the negative end of that opener. They've left open attic. It'll be a free take here for the Akron members. They can just go ahead and burn off that Surya gate and get easy access. It's got to be worrying how easy you let them move in here, but maybe Taco is going to be the one to kind of shut that down, though they have a drone on him.
They had a drone, though. Arv is watching it from the grave, most likely. And we can see that response from, hopefully, a member of Akron relatively soon, but they're still relatively focused on attic. So I wonder if Arv is cycling another flank drone. There we go. Oh, no! It's a free kill for Taco, and they just leave the area. Oh, that's so heartbreaking. At least IMAT is able to trade on the other side of the map, but what's the point of setting up a flank drone if you're not watching it?
Yeah, there isn't a point to it. It's useless. Taco trying to go back up the main stairs. IMAT's there first. The Valkyrie is very cautious with the way that she goes about it. She's just waiting. Finally, we'll step on over. She was looking more to the vert, but oh no! IMAT misses out the opportunity to get the kill. There's only 60 seconds here. Maybe Akron think the best choice is to just go 3-on-3 at the objective. They aren't really moving particularly quick about it, though.
You got ADSs, you got deployable shield, and a lot of defending utility, and also the Thorn Gadgets, which might be something awkward to deal with. A bad repel for Jobu as the members of Akron start to queue up over towards the game side. The queue ends, though, with Hennessy, the last one left in line. Rise Peak a little bit overly aggressive with 30 seconds to play with. This is very possible for Hennessy to overcome this round. No more throwable utility, but who needs throwable utility when Hennessy collects another kill? You got Diffuser, but you don't have the positional location of where NC State is playing. So you're going to have to try to push in through the breach. Hennessy does that, but they end up losing their life in the process.
Taco getting so active for the Wolfpack there in this semifinals match, and in that round in particular. I mentioned earlier when he died on that gridlock for the basement attack, the fact that he wasn't there did kind of cripple NCSU to a certain degree. He is a big player in that round, goes a long way towards actuating that strategy. And the fact that they weren't watching the drone, I mean, come on, you guys literally have a player that's dead, whose sole job is to swap and flip the drones. When you know that IMAT is already, when you know that Taco is already on the roam and is already moving around, what are you doing to not watch that drone?
To be fair, we did see in the overhead that Arv was on a camera. It was just the wrong camera to be on. So that's the nice thing about the overlay. Even if you're dead, we can see if you're spectating on a camera. I guess it just didn't matter. Maybe that shows the strengths of Akron, that they're doing some things well.
They're cycling.
You're 100% right. You should be cycling, but at least Akron has so many cameras that are putting tons of flank drones in play. Maybe too many flank drones in play, and they don't know which ones to watch. But let's be honest, man. I'd rather condemn a team for putting too many flank drones than not enough flank drones, because we've certainly seen teams that put 0 flank drones. You know, I'm happy that there's at least multiple.
Yeah, I suppose you have a point there. You know, it's just about knowing what cam to watch. I don't know, maybe behind the scenes, Akron told him to watch a specific cam, and so he was just only watching the one. But
that's happened,
in my mind, that's the most kind of ambiguous part of the map. You've got that entire basement area that you're not going to be able to clear, and that staircase is probably the most commonly flanked spot for roamers. Either way, we'll digress and we'll go to this middle floor tertiary objective, see how this meeting site will play out. Not one we got in the first half. We managed to just entirely win that one based off of dorms or the basement.
Did I see some roamer from NC State lurking in a corner over in the showers? No. Okay. That would have been quite a wild experience. And even if there was a member of NC State in that portion of the map, Akron has already droned it out, so there would be a firefight taking place. NC State is roaming all upstairs anyway, so they're not going to be able to put any man count over towards the small tower portion of the map. And the way that they're going to be playing this, Reese, is very similar to kind of how a team would play the dorms bomb site proper, where NC State just 1, but with the ability to use a vertical hole to deny entry through certain door frames, as well as force Akron to push multiple floors simultaneously, or you could just exothermic and potentially rush, because nobody from NC State is anywhere near that exothermic.
The one sort of wrinkle here would be Predator over by Zulu, but Arv is coming in to apply the pressure, and there you go. You were right on the money. Hennessy working for the plant pressure, and there's nobody that can stop it right now. Rai will be the one to try to do it. He fails. Hennessy able to back out just barely. Anarchy downed on stage. Taco, out of ammo in the primary, has had to resort to the handgun. He had a drone on him the whole time. No wonder this failed so badly in the retake from NCSU. Taco maybe just going to get his teammate back up. You've got that Alda. You've got the power of the LMG, but both of these players on tremendously low HP. Anarchy doesn't make it halfway across the meeting room before he dies, and I'm apt to put in the finisher as well. Akron will take the lead.
Brilliant read from Akron. Hey, this is such a complicated defense upstairs. Wow, NC State does just a good job of defending upstairs. We're going to let them to continue to defend upstairs. We're just going to breach the wall and plant. You can defend dorms all you want because it's not the bomb site. A brilliant read from Akron. I mean, simply put, they put the diffuser in the right place. And if you're NC State with a lacking of throwable utility, how are you going to deny that plant? By swinging the door frame? Well, Akron has their guns up ready for that contingency, and they made that round look easy. The fastest round so far, at least at this series.
That was expert. That was really, I mean, you would think NCSU would have understood that as a possibility for the strat to fail on. And I remember NCSU having had to deal with that. Usually the way they defend it is by going for a full rotate and by having a player push up Zulu and then one or two players that come down the main stairs. Akron were too fast about it. I think they kind of caught, you know, the NCSU defense a little bit off guard. And NCSU, I want to get your opinion on this. They really haven't been a team to repeat sites so far. They've just gone to the next. They've tried something different every time.
You know what? I can't fault them for that, Reese, because sometimes we've seen teams go to the same bomb site over and over again, kind of like bashing their forehead against the wall until it eventually works for them or until they eventually lose. I admire the fact that NC State is constantly experimenting with sites, because the basement site, Akron won. The kitchen site, Akron just won. The only site that they've been able to go to was dorms. And, well, that's locked up until round at number 11, which we may not, sorry, we will see at least next round, because this could be match point for Akron. But, I mean, NC State is just trying to find something that works against a strong Akron attack. And as we mentioned before, Akron really doesn't play this map. They've only played it 6 times this academic year, but they've won it the 4 of the 6 times that they have played.
At least for, you know, the core 4, minus Arv, they know what to do. They know how to best a majority of teams. I think one of the strongest things about Akron, the way that they played in the past, was they could really, you know, challenge any kind of team playstyle-wise. They weren't, you know, an aggressive roster that could only beat really structured teams. They weren't really a passive roster that only could beat you know, more unprepared squads. They could really do a lot of different things. Anarchy goes down a great trade there from JetCon. Goes a long way towards making up for the death of Arv. Again, though, I have to bring this up, Brian. Sledge, the opening casualty. He has not been able to really get into any of these rounds so far. And the fact that he just so consistently dies on the entry death is worrying, if not for Akron just going super active from JetCon to make up for Taco and Anarchy. It wouldn't be so good.
Seems like we've been here once before, my friend, with the Akron advantage by +1, with plenty of time still to execute in this round. Something you don't see every single day is exothermic charges placed on castle barricades. You can usually melee them, especially the new changes. 8 melees to be able to break down that bit of utility, but Akron wants to be moving fast, but they're going to move very fast into another castle barricade that Akron's going to have to somehow deal with. You can expend a nade, you can use a flat plays charge, maybe one of the impact grenades, the Zofia Lifeline, and honestly, that probably would have been a better choice for this combination. But nonetheless, Akron has now dealt with the problems of the castle barricades. Now they have to deal with probably the main problem. How on earth do you get the diffuser down on the ground?
It's going to be a really tough spot. You have that C4. You don't have the smokes. Akron now, as Hennessy comes in, A big kill. Match point looking possible. Predator on the swing. He gets one, nearly the second. Spots the Maverick again, but loses out there to Jobu. 1v2. The SMG fails against the mighty power of that 150 round drum magazine. And ultimately, the pre-aim there looking excellent. The round will go to Akron. They're on match point, preparing to steal out NCSU's pick. Defensively, the Wolfpack really lagging behind here.
It's the gunfights that are lagging behind the most, Reese. I mean, simply put, Akron is winning their gunfights upstairs. Even with NC State finding the opening kill, it didn't really matter at all. It just kind of spiraled out of control. The members of NC State, they looked brilliant in the mechanical skill department back on map number 1 Clubhouse. They were winning most of those brawls, but now Akron just makes these gunfights look easy.
Well, you did mention a point earlier that I wanted to bring back up. You touched on the fact that last night on the CR6 stage finals between Akron and Converse, Jonah, our good friend Jays Wills, had coined Hennessy as the clutch master. Well, historically, Jonah also coined a different term. It's called the Collegiate Special.
Oh, no.
Where teams in Collegiate will oftentimes go ahead and steal out their opponent's map picks. And I think we're right on the money for that so far, unless there's 2 rounds in a row left in the Wolfpack squad.
You know, I have a hypothesis about the Collegiate Special, my friend, and it just comes down to this. Collegiate players play the same 4 maps, so is it really somebody's quote-unquote map choice?
Oh, that's a deep thought right there.
That is meta.
Very meta.
I'm sure we're going to get some angry replies from that one. Expand your map pools, especially since next semester we're going to have 9 maps in the map pool, so you got to add some new maps to your repertoire, because the 7 right now, well, 6 of them are saying Clubhouse is getting jettisoned away, but I think that's a conversation for a different day, because Akron has boots on the ground.
They do. It's IMAT on the entry, expanding the portfolio of control with Armory now under the belt, and NCSU playing a couple different things. They got the Thorn here on the Dorms defense. Wonder how that's really going to play into the way that they hold back the pressure. They barricaded this off, just providing another element. I bet you there's a Razor Bloom inside that walk-in closet area.
There it is.
There was. At least it was on the door. Maybe there's another one in the walk-in closet anyway. Who knows?
It's interesting that we saw so many green barricades set up in that portion of that map. Hennessy flashbangs are designed for defenders, not for attackers. As Hennessy's eyes balls go milky white because of the flashbang, he's going to be recalled to temporarily not take that gunfight and allows the NC State SMG 11 bro to hightail it to a safer position. Now, the one fumble of the bag for Hennessy, it was quickly rectified with the wall now being opened up by the exothermic charge, and Akron, once again, in a very strong position.
Things are looking mighty powerful for them, but they're still going to need an entry pick or 2 to start to give us that favor back, and we know that Taco is on the flank. Moving in through split, the Iana rounds the corner, and Taco almost dies to IMAT there, but the Valkyrie, at the end of the day, walks away with the kill, not before getting traded by JetCon, though. I think it's kind of a rash decision for IMAT to have simply walked in to that split area without really being much drone. If he had known that Valkyrie was there, probably wouldn't have been too difficult of a kill to muster.
Well, NC State in the exact same position as their opponents right now, 4-4 apiece, and Akron, while they have everything practically opened up, it's about time for them to do something with those openings. Hennessy, no smoke grenades. They elect to bring out flashbangs instead, and those flashbangs have already been spent in previous altercations. So Akron's not going to have excess cover when they go for the plant, so instead they're going to have to ensure that their teammates are in the right positions. One of those key linchpins was JetCon with the LMGE. They end up falling, but that was actually the telltale signs that the diffuser would begin to get planted by Hennessy. Now into the post-plant, my friend, NC State. They have match points against them. They're going to have to start to leave the cubbies that they were once hiding in and now play with the diffuser, but they don't know where anybody in the attacking roster is. Missed shots from Rai, who's been on the struggle bus, and the bus departs with them once again as they are unable to find any kills in the final execute. Akron confirms our match point, guarantees match number 3, Villa in pocket.
Arvid had some trouble leaving the station here on Oregon, but in the final round, arguably the most important, he does close out the kill. and it's a victory for Akron. Team in Ohio. We'll go ahead and move on to the decider. We get to Villa after all, and things exciting there at the late stage of Oregon, and CSU not able to defend off their map selection, the Collegiate Special, in full effect.
We talked about the gun skill of NC State, map number 1. That seemed to be kind of a sore point here in map number 2 of Oregon. They just simply weren't able to match Akron's raw gun skill, which is crazy that we're seeing that flip-flop. Now going over to Villa, my friend, it's honestly anybody's guess who's going to take the victory.
Yeah, I would say Akron certainly have been a good team on Villa for a long time, and CSU are pretty favorable on the map as well. However, if you're going back in time just to last night's broadcast that we keep mentioning here, the Collegiate R6 Finals, another part of this Face It Collegiate circuit, it was actually Villa, the one map that Akron did lose to Converse in that endeavor. Let's find out if it happens again tonight after we come back from the intermission.
Hey everybody, we promised you guys a brilliant match here in R6CC, the semifinals between Akron and NC State. So far, Reese, it's been exactly that. Bangers on map number 1, bangers on map number 2. We're entering into Villa, map number 3. My friend, I promise you it's going to be a banger.
Yeah, I think things are going to be really exciting here for the decider map. We're into the semifinals. One team moves on, another goes home, and of course we still have 2 more parts of this circuit left to play out after the finals wrap up for our grand finals match in the best of 5. We also have the wild card tournament, and further down the line the unified, almost missed it there, unified collegiate championship, which will be a big money $15,000 tournament. It's going to be one of the most exciting parts of the years there for the national finals. But getting into this match, we still have a team left to be decided for our finals match for our 6cc to go, and I don't know exactly who I would lean towards. I think it is fair to say that Akron have a good shot here, but I mentioned before the break, Akron haven't been too good lately on the map of Villa if you're looking at last night or some of their earlier matches in the playoffs. Is there anything that we've got on paper right now that is going to favor one of these 2 squads?
No, because Villa is a playground for both teams. Simply put, both teams are statistically equal on this map, and it's going to come down to who is clicking heads, who has the better strategy, who's coming together as a cohesive unit. And you know what? Let's drop the theory crafting and start to go into map number 1, but I will kind of leave one question though as the operator ban continues. We saw NC State be the dominant performer on map 1 in the head clicking department. It was Akron on map number 2, the dominant performer for the head clicking department. Who's it gonna be? Who knows?
I don't know. We've got the Flores ban. He was taken out, and he has been really a consistent quantity. We've seen so much Flores ban lately. Those Rotero drones are incredibly frustrating. On a map like Villa, you can get those drones. You can drive them anywhere. I mean, the map is kind of large if you think about it in terms of the first floor. It's a little more expansive than the room that you've got upstairs. But the Flores drone, I mean, it's kind of close quarters. If you're not bringing a mute and you've got the Roteros rolling around, your utility is going to be gone. There's the Thatcher. We've also got the Cade. Usually it's right about now I would say, oh, you got Cade ban, but the Maverick is still in play. Not really seeing a lot of Maverick lately, Chief.
Saw him a bit in map number 1, but again, that was Clubhouse. We expect to either see Maverick banned or played pretty much exclusively. Cade's an interesting flavor to have here on Villa. I mean, what are you going to put him in? Invulnerable spots, an elevated position? Sure, but I feel like there's other ways of getting on by the Cade. And, you know, another commonly banned operator, Valkyrie, was around in map 2 of Oregon, and once again going to be available here on Villa.
All right, so we'll get her in. We'll get a lot of cams, a lot of extra potential there. And maybe this is going to lead to a more coordinated roam now that you've actually got some intel to act off of. There were a couple of moments I felt like on the previous map where the roam wasn't as closely, working together. There were moments certainly where the offense was able to isolate that roaming element. And if that's a problem here on Villa as well, it could lead us into a situation maybe where we get a little bit more of an attacking game. I think generally for Villa lately, the game has played out so defender-sided. The halves are almost cut and dry 2-4 every single time if you're looking on a pure numbers basis, but also just in a kind of more general perspective, when you're looking at the way that the defense plays, the offense has a ton of responsibility to accept.
And that responsibility is going to come in the line of all the trap operators that Akron has brought to the table, my friend. Very rarely do you see a single trap operator. It's usually going to be the Legion goo mines, but Thorn is going to make her appearance once again in this series. Again, we're debating on whether or not she's going to be a particularly impactful player, but this operator has been relevant through most of our rounds today, and Akron's going to bring her out once again, and I think it comes down to the early detection that Akron wants to have. They want to keep tabs on the NC State offense for as long as possible. The goo mines, the Thorn gadget does exactly that, monitors the attackers without active information like a Valkyrie camera would.
Yeah, and I think the point that you make there about the razor blooms can be so helpful. A lot of times on Villa, it's kind of a very definitive chop between, okay, we're roaming, and okay, we're falling back. It's hard to play in that middle ground on this top floor. The reason why is because you've got that bore window, which just so easily can define the cut between when your roam is being monitored and when it's not. But also, if you got those razor blooms, right, and now you have a little bit more intel. We could talk about Valkyrie if she gets introduced here for the Akron defense later. Knowing where the attackers are kind of allows you to maybe have a bit of an extra buffer.
Now, Akron's downstairs right now, Reese. The reason why they're down there is to prevent NC State from going with a grenade denial, which they did absolutely on Oregon. I mean, they did it multiple times on the Oregon dorm execute, and it's very common, maybe even more common here on Villa, but NC State is very linear so far with their attack, very horizontal. I mean, they're directly pressuring the bomb site already. They have brought out enough nades, 2 of them, in fact, so I guess a change from the 3 sets of nades that we saw in Oregon, but nonetheless, the roamers downstairs from Akron, they should be recalled to the bomb site relatively quickly, because NC State's actually close to going for an execute, as hopefully Arv was just not misdrowned.
Doesn't look like it. I think they're aware of this hunting vault position, although Taco starting to move in, hasn't checked that close left corner, still have the Thorn and Arv, an opportunity for him to kind of reset after a bit of a poor performance on Oregon, all things considered. 40 to go. Arv steps in, but Rai was ready for it. Great team play there between the Hib and the Yana. Now with Hennessy down, NCSU looking to kind of rear up and get going. They might not know that the Wamai has been downed. JetCon still alive inside study. It'll be Anarchy's job to put that pressure on him. And so the defense getting even more considerably isolated here. The fire begins to spread, and IMET there onto Anarchy helps Akron feel a little bit of an extra breath of air. Rai and the Iana both having that pressure to work inside, and Rai will think about the plant. Meanwhile, Taco has Hennessy. JetCon may be the ace up the sleeve here, but he goes down on an easy shot from deep in the vault. Jobu out of Toxic Babes, really out of luck, and so too is the Legion. They didn't have any near enough health to stand up against Predator there. And Rai now, Jobu just on such little HP that it makes the Habana's job that much easier. NCSU, a little back and forth there, but at the end of the day, a clean plant and a clean execution.
Very important round for Rai Reese. They were sitting on a donut for most of Oregon. They were struggling to find impact kills. I mean, to be fair, Rai is a support, and they tend to not be in the line of fire, but here on Villa, they find 3 very impactful kills. They were constantly being shot at by members of the Akron defense, and Rai negotiated those bullets with ease, and for a fact, the entire attacking team of NC State dealt with that bomb site almost uncontested. I mean, we saw it roam downstairs from Akron. It was just completely ignored by NC State, and it was NC State just pressuring the site and Akron crumbling underneath that pressure.
Not a great sign. It was part of the problem, honestly, for me on Clubhouse when Akron would just face overwhelming, NCSU bulwarks. The way that the offense had played there for the Wolfpack was so coordinated. It was very cut and dry, 3-2-1 go a lot of the time on Club. And if they can leverage that same potential, there is a very profitable and bountiful Villa game ahead of them. And it's just about kind of keeping everybody in the loop. If Rai's getting active as well, that's a great thing. I know I had seen the scoreline. I almost had thought to make a comment on it, but I was just sort of hoping, given he's the support player, that he finds his way through the limelight. And NCSU, it just took him to this third map in order to get going.
Rai is rarely a player that ever, goes anywhere close to 0 kills, right? I mean, Rai has a ton of experience in the competitive scene, and I think, sometimes people stumble, and that was their one stumbling. NC State, though, after the highs around number 1, they're already doing strong steps so far in this round, Reese, right? They're doing good droning, they're doing good discipline right now. They're just making sure that Akron, when they know that they've changed something, they're just trying to find out what that something is, and it looks like they're trying to put more players on that top floor, not roaming over by Master like you'd expect, but more towards 90.
I'm curious if that might change as we go later into the game, because it feels like Akron give a lot of easy control to NCSU and not really for much game. They just leave them to their own devices almost on that northeast side.
Well, probably won't see AVG again, whether or not it's a win or a loss. So that's going to be something that Akron can allow them to kind of percolate as a decision factor. Right now, they have to deal with the here and now, and that's the pressure of NC State, who now just found themselves in the best spot you can be, with 90 control, but you do need to be mindful of the Jaeger ADSs, the Wamai Pancakes, most likely pressuring that deployable shield. You do have Taka, which is going to have the Iona with grenades, and the Gon 6, but just got to make sure that you don't waste that precious bits of utility. And another change up for the Akron defense, you do have a nicely placed Wamai Pancake to prevent a nade from removing the mute jammer, or you can just remove the nades altogether.
That was beautiful. What a way for Taco to get into the fight here, and Anarchy might have the cut as well. No, we got that mute in the head. It's just tapped right into for Anarchy. There's another player he might be able to chase into as well. That's JetCon. Quick on the fallback to take a drone, but not to take the fight, leaving this Twitch to just sort of muddle around downstairs still. A nade goes up. It's got the deployable and a little ADS beside it as well, I believe. So now more utility being broken down by NCSU. It might be tied in the man count, but I think NC State have got a pretty decent thing going. It'll depend on how they choose to execute here. I think they're still going to consider primarily into that aviator pressure, but they're going to have the study element as well. Making sure we don't have JetCon there like he was last time will be the job of the Twitch as we get under the 20-second mark.
Toxic gas grenades, good enough to waste the entire duration of the clock. The last one was used with 20 seconds, with 10 seconds to Nile East. Jobu has so much to work with, but NC State just simply winning their gunfights. They're going to have to deal with Arv on the other side of that metal door frame. The flank from JetCon is good for an additional 2 kills with toxic gas grenades, and now Drew needs to do the impossible, find 2 kills, and they're unable to do so. The toxic gas grenades and the flank from behind, Akron's able to overcome their man disadvantage.
Now that gas play from Jobu, NCSU looking like they were about ready to go, but they got in the sight and they went up in smoke. They lose out on that aviator play, and part of it is, I think, the death of the Twitch. You can't really, it's such a difficult thing to do right there for that player that's on the study balcony, because yes, you need to clamp down on that study pressure. You also can't, unsettle your position. You need to really be comfortable because it's a make or break style spot. The gas, I think, for me, signifies that maybe NCSU were a little slower than they were in the previous round. I think you check out the clock, around the time that they came to the execute was maybe the 45-second mark. There was not as much time as you would have needed to, and they didn't properly waste out the smoke. They couldn't get any vertical pressure as well there on Jobu.
Well, it's time to rectify those decisions for NC State. It's a new bomb site, a new day, and they can just move on from the mistakes. An operator that has been absent so far from play across the past 3 maps, that's going to be the Goyo. And Goyo has been recently reworked. At one point in time, they had deployable shields with the explosive Vulcan canisters. Now, The shields have been taken away. Goyo just has the canisters, but the canisters have been tweaked just a bit, and they have a little bit more fire capacity. 20 seconds worth of time denial, and that's something that NC State needs to be very fearful of, my friend. They lost to the 30 seconds of possible time denial with the smoke toxic gas grenades of Jobu, and they actually died to it twice in the previous round. Now you got smoke and fire to deal with.
Yeah, those zone denial operators got to be public enemy number one right now for NC State with how much they're just dying, wasting time, losing HP, all the different works there. On trophy in stat, Akron will play a tiny extension below. It's not really a huge invested thing. You just sort of got a couple lurking players here or there. Poor timing for Anarchy to come on the cams. He doesn't really quite have that opportunity to collect the player. Again, we'll see the leg, the recoil. Anarchy, you gotta hit your shots there, man. He loses out the fight to the Aruni and does not collect upon that opportunity. He'll have to go a different direction and try to come at this from a different spot.
Oh, free opening kill for NC State. They are unable to capitalize on that, and now they're going to have to spend more of their resources and more of their time downstairs on this first floor to do what their ultimate strategy will be. And that's going to be the grenade meta for pretty much into oblivion, right? You're going to try to be an artillery barrage and rifle those grenades downrange for as many times as possible, and try to remove also precious bits of utility. While NC State does have that foothold, here comes the information gathering portion. How do you actually guide those nades to success? So far, the nades are kind of landing willy-nilly. They've been successful on previous maps. Right now, not quite finding their target. A premature detonation that Goyo shield made by IMAT, fearing some type of pressure, but NC State nowhere near that part of the map yet.
A little bit of a phantom there. Anarchy still out from the rappel. Here comes your hard-breaching Endeavor, just getting those X-Kairos in. I think part of them might have actually missed. It might not matter, large scheme, though. You've still got that opening to create, and you won't have as much freedom for players of Akron to rest inside of that statue area. Taco on a lurk down in the basement. It's a bit of a late play for him to be here. However, he should still have the opportunity to come up from the red stairs regardless of that. Drew now in for the hop-in, taking a bit of fire from one of those players towards back of Deer. NCSU are again low on time, and look, they got 32 seconds. There's still 3 gas canisters, one of them already sent out, and Arf chipping in with that shotgun. Taco's play, he tried to make sneaking through the basement entirely unsuccessful, but Predator comes in on the save move. He's gunned down that clutch god Hennessy. IMAT, though, on the response. He's got rid of Drew, and he's got rid of that Finka, that execute power, as IMAT still defending stalwartly here. Anarchy on a really long rappel there. JetCon DBNO'd. Anarchy needs to find the shot, and he will. The head connects, but Predator now down. 2 targets need to present themselves. One guy prone. If he can recover the bomb, it might be doable here, but Arv will just play keep away. The Twitch can't make it back in time.
Time management for NC State, my friend, has been their undoing now in 2 different rounds. They're trying to do a lot of complex things in our attack, and they're just simply unable to do them all simultaneously. NC State was very focused on kind of linear attacks early on back on Clubhouse. They're very straightforward. And right now, it's not so straightforward. That they're just getting lost in the sauce, if you will, and they need to refocus up. Their first Plains of Games attack was simple, it was sweet, and it was easy. From there, it's just kind of gone downhill.
It really has. I mean, it has kind of dropped off the cliff, so to speak, and I think they just maybe should try to play it a little bit more. I mean, some elements need to be quickened up, but others kind of are still falling behind. And even if you try to go super fast for NCSU, then you start to lose some of the consistency, and you start to lose out on some of those guaranteed fights. It's so troubling. I mean, remember that Twitch last time, just hoping that she would shoot that player through the drone hole. That was so frustrating to watch, because it could have meant a pick to really get NCSU kind of over the hump in the early game here. You know, a good win that they had on AV. But so far, the other site's proving to be really strong defensively. A point that I mentioned earlier, you know, Villa has trended to be so popular for the defensive roster. Attacking this map has become tremendously more difficult. It doesn't matter how many LMGs you've got. But on Dining Room, it should serve really as a constant. In my mind, I think this should be an NCSU round. There should be the vertical pressure. They should come in against this, and it shouldn't be too much of a problem.
You know, a way for Akron to guarantee them winning their tertiary bomb site? It's going to be Living Room Library, the best of the collegiate bomb sites.
living room library.
You're not a fan? It happens. It happens to the best of us. Unfortunately, though, Taco is going to be the opening death, and
Oh, God.
the Arv Menace, we've been calling Hennessy the Clutch Master, the Clutch Minister. I think Arv needs to be the opening kill dispatcher.
Well, Arv has spotted a couple players out towards that balcony. Can't really use a C4 there, sadly enough. Would require some theatrics to get it in that spot, but there's a C4 that's no trouble at all. Jobu has one on the opener against Anarchy. NCSU in absolute tatters this round as the C4 strike true across the entirety of the vertical player positions, leaving Drew and Rai to pick up the pieces. This was supposed to be a definitive vertical take round that doesn't have a whole lot of things that can go too wrong, but it's been the complete opposite.
Oh no, they're trying to land a nade in the deep portion to deal with Arv, but the Arudi gate was there, and apparently Arv just stands there crowding and smoked still by the nade. It was looking like the NC State utility was just not going to reach that player, but in the end, it does work out at least one time in this round for NC State, Reese, but the problem is you still got 4 members to Akron to deal with, and you only got 2 NC State members cut up, and where do you go? Do you go for the vertical? Well, that might not go in your direction, so they're going to elect to go, I guess, below the ground and try to stealthily walk up the cellar stairs, but I think Akron's going to be pretty much aware of that. They are.
Yeah, Rai and Drew will attempt the subterranean invasion here. Hard to say that it will be really all that successful. Surya Gate still blocks your progress instantly. There will be a defensive acknowledgement if a player is inside pantry. Drew waiting on red, maybe hoping that player at Memo might step out. Oh, but look at his spot from JetCon. IMAT is going to easily call this out, and they're going to play the 2-on-1 confrontation. Down goes Rai. It's an easy pickup for that last player. Nothing could stop Akron in that round. It is trouble right now for the Wolfpack. Things are not going entirely at their favor at all on the offense, and though I expect things to rebound for them defensively, you can't let this slip for 2 more rounds. You have a 5-1 half. Akron are going to be just a ravaging beast if you let them in.
And they've been dominant on the defense, right? These have been some very dominant performances, some very strong wins for Akron. And NC State is just making silly mistakes, not being mindful of a pulse, sitting in one position to die to that nitrocell. Like, it is just small things that NC State, it's costing them their attacking bodies. And I guess that's part of the burden of being on attack. Right, Reese? You have the burden of taking map control, you have the burden of droning, you have the burden of finding these defenders, and then you have to remove those defenders. And through the removal process, kind of like a garbage man, trash is fighting back.
I don't know what trash you're dealing with. I haven't really heard of many.
The Cookie Monster lives in trash, bro. He'd be bad.
It does. The Cookie Monster is nice. It's the other guy from Sesame Street that gets grouchy.
Is his name Grouch or something? Is it a Grouch?
I think it is Grouch. I think it is. It has been so long. That's a classic reference there. If you haven't watched Sesame Street,
we jaded ourselves with that one.
Did you even have a childhood if you didn't watch Sesame Street?
Well, hopefully everybody has prepped themselves for this round 5, right? Playing some games, both bomb sites teams have been capable of winning. It was NC State back in round number 1. It was Akron back in round number 2, and it was a roller coaster of a difference between those 2 rounds where it was NC State, just a dominant performance where they just had map authority instantaneously, and then Akron was able to make the most Hail Mary double nitrocell that we could possibly, not double nitrocell, double smoke grenade that they could possibly imagine. So which is it going to be? Well, it's going to be really on NC State to not get opening death. I think that's the deciding factor that ended up paving the way for the 2 differences in the AVG holds, and Anarchy could do so right now in the nook from below.
The sneak play for Anarchy. It's a cheap shot against JetCon, but the nook pick works out that entry, which has been lacking, really, for NCSU. They have not been authoritative at all in getting it started. And I think, luckily, that's a positive note for Arv, the fact that he hasn't just been getting flattened at the start of the round. Most of the time, he's actually had a pretty fair game on Villa at the moment. NCSU, though they have this opening pick, I think the objective is to try to go a little bit faster. They've got that deployable. It hasn't been the utility that's been the trouble, the static utility, really, that's been problematic. It's been things like the gas, that late ability to just stop you in your tracks. Look, there's only 3 gas canisters and there's only 1 smoke. Get past him, and I promise you, there are greener pastures ahead.
Well, you got the nades to dispatch from below. I think that's the ultimate strategy. If you don't want to deal with smoke grenades, you just call in that artillery barrage from below, rifle off the 5 grenades that you have right now, put them in well-placed spots. Even with Jobu elevated on U-bar, it doesn't really matter. You put 2 grenades there, they're going to suffer the death. I mean, the nades are going to only do so much damage. And I'm at flank, my friend. We've seen that back on Dubhouse, and we're about to see it once again. A Thorn detonates in the background. Hennessy finds a trade, but Taco is going to lead the charge, allowing Predator to go for the plant. No Nitrocell in the sector yet of the map, but Arv is doing the work of Akron. 2 good kills. Converts to the 3rd. It's now all left onto Drew. The diffuser goes down, and Drew needs to make a play. He's inhaling the gas, and the coverage for my man is good enough for Akron to win the round.
It comes so close once again, but the ending there for NCSU, the toxic gas, they're met with disaster, and they failed to close out on another aviator round, having lost 4 uninterrupted attacks. NCSU can't do it. Looking down and out, this is their starting roster. This is supposed to be the squad that we know to persevere, but Akron, off the back of so many successes for their program yet in this short period of time, the 2 recent victories, the championship title in CEA and in Collegiate R6 for Stage 3, and it's looking like they may jot down another one if they can get to the grand final. That's what we're fighting for tonight here, and they only need just 3 more rounds to do it. They only needed those 3 more rounds to do it on Oregon to steal out NCSU's map pick, and they got there in the end of things. The Collegiate Special happened, and things are looking very unique in this matchup for Akron, who don't even have their starting shot caller in play.
5-1-half is the way that Akron accomplishes at the best, and they're certainly looking like it. As you mentioned, 4 unanswered rounds. A 5th would just be the icing on the cake. You go over to the Akron attack, and well, we know what that attack looks like. It's all LMGs for days, and NCSU is going to have to be quite prepared for that. But they have one more hopeful good round. An attack. A 4-2 split is actually quite desirable. Sure, it looks kind of lopsided, but it's quite common here on Villa. Roam clear, starting to establish, and it's a different attack once again for NC State through study.
Osa coming in as well, an operator we haven't had all series, and I don't know if this is really going to be the answer to the prayers of NCSU, who have had trouble in a couple different departments, but having that extra shield. Imagine they had that Talon last time. Arv probably wouldn't have ripped through 3 players if you had that clear glass shield in front, maybe protecting the planter or protecting the player in the post plant, something like that. Arv was on a killing spree there. You've also got Taco bringing some extra firepower on the G8A1 as well. Maybe that's the difference maker here. Anarchy off the 90 repel, though. I believe he's fearing a possible C4 to come up from underneath.
It's wise to be fearful of that Nitrocell. Akron has been lurking on multiple floors consistently. Nitrocells have been the opening death of Akron attackers multiple times, and while IMAT has been one of those Nitrocell wielders, they're going to be playing an operator without the Nitrocell. Instead, it's going to be Akron keeping Arv on the Nitrocell, another SMG-11 operator, an operator they've been strong with. And speaking about Nitrocell denial, Valkyrie is in play as well, and those Nitrocells can be guided with perfect precision.
Hopefully, let's say the IQ pick can stop up some of those black eyes. Anarchy looking to apply pressure onto that bathroom hold. It's been a slow start. What a familiar note that things quicken up. The death of Jobu is such a positive right now. Such a helpful addition to the casualties for Akron. And it's going to give NCSU maybe just a little bit more breathing room. Taco was embattled for the biggest majority of this round. Finally, he does go down. So things not a disadvantage for Akron. Maybe you could say a utility disadvantage, though. I think the C4s probably will determine this round's outcome.
Predators sitting on that soft floor with the diffuser in hand, and look at the vertical holes that Arv has. They're going to be monitoring the attacking push from NC State throughout the rest of the round. There's the Nitrocell, critical player to find. Predator loses their life, drops the diffuser. Sure, Anarchy has a fixed position behind the deployable shield, but they're going to have to step up and find the kill. Drewsome able to find the diffuser out of all things and initiates the plant. Oh no, it's a huge miscalculation. Sure, NC State has only 2 players left, but they're going to be forced to fight in the post plant. A good position to be in. Drew with the LMG able to just dish out pain and suffering. But he misses the shot in the end. Akron confirms our 5-1 half.
What a fiery round there for JetCon, for the rest of the Akron squad. They lose their smoke, they lose their plant denial, but they rise from the ashes. A 5-1 half. NCSU look absolutely devastated. And now they're going to need that same first half score. They're going to need 5 defenses. Otherwise, things are over and done with here, and overtime won't even be a possibility. And, well, just from the way things are going so far, I really don't see it happening. I mean, lately, I think Villa, I don't want to say this with authority, because in my opinion, it's really not something I've seen consistently enough for me to say, okay, this will happen. There have been some matches, collegiate and otherwise, that have had these dueling 5-1 scorelines, though. And while I don't think it's enough of an example, enough, empirical data to say, okay, we're in a similar territory to Theme Park, you certainly do kind of still think about that in the back of your head.
That's the perfect thing, right? Like, every game is going to be different. Sure, you can have averages where it's going to fall within a certain percentage, but there's always those outliers. And Reese, you just never know when you're going to be an outlier until the completion has been made. And NCSU, to be fair, is now in kind of the position where you can expect them to potentially run up scorelines, right? The defense is always going to be inherently easier. The game is called Rainbow Six Siege, and there's a siege currently going on. The defenders can just sit back and relax and force the attackers to have the burden of clearing out the map. Akron did a wonderful job of establishing those obstacles on their defending stint, but now that they're on attack, they're going to have to kind of suffer the exact same wrath, and it's starting off with a Rooney Gates and Study.
We've talked about the subject of the extension and trying to play a little bit more over towards the Masters side. Won't really be very important this time. Akron with a little bit more towards that default take. I don't think we've really gotten much in this direction of the main pressure yet, have we?
No, not really. It's always been North executes, at least when we saw NC State doing it. And again, we're talking about NC State putting too many things on their plate, going for very complicated attacks. Akron, I think, has learned something about that, and they're going for about as linear of a take as possible. They're trying to grab as little map control as possible, and they're going to rely on their incredible gun skill to help secure that map control.
Well, there is certainly a big example of it. Arv is the opening death, and we're starting to get back to business as usual. The Sledge player to be the opening death, but Jobu responds immediately, helping to ease some of those fears. Gonna be a really tough spot. Oh, there's a head. The Fika. Imad is so close quarters right now. If only the Wamai knew, he might be able to just pop it. There's a head again. Anarchy is so tunnel vision on the straight and narrow angle. The Jaeger comes down. It wasn't even the Wamai who died. It was Taco. Imad fails to get the second kill. He resorts to the pistol. A bad move, confirming that one will cost him his life, and it also costs this position at the main stairs. Akron take it, and they go 3-2.
I think Imad was just completely perplexed that there's another person just vibing on the stairwell. NC State, though, they're not vibing at all right now, my friend. They had the man disadvantage, and you got the 2 SMG-11 bros against 3 members of Akron. To be fair, no more nades on the side of Akron, no more throwable bits of utility, but the same thing can be said to NC State right now. So it's all going to be about those gun skills and those gun plays, and with members of NC State with a shotgun and a submachine gun as their secondary weapon with 17 bullets going against assault rifles, this is a huge hill to overclimb.
Predator tries to run right into it, but he only meets his demise. Rai left, and he does laser one. Results to the shotgun. This is the moment. Rai starting to sneak up on it. The Lion at a distance, the shotgun not doing as much damage, but it does get the down. Hennessy will choose to stick the plan, and Rai needs to get over here ASAP. He gets it! Rai able to hold off, and he might have had a slow-going thing on the earlier map of Oregon, but he's certainly looking electric, and it comes in for a big round, one that NCSU certainly needed in their bag.
Wow, incredible from NC State there. I mean, a round, simply put, they should not have been able to overcome a 3-2 attacking execute where Akron had every bit of an advantage, and even if they put themselves at the disadvantage, you just go for the trade game, something that Akron was unable to do. We had that conversation earlier back on Oregon. One of the strengths of the NC State attack was their ability to just go for trades, and well, they demonstrate that once again with their inner team play between the two SMG 11 bros. Well done to NC State, and they're going to fight for another round.
Yeah, they keep their head above water. It's just barely, though, and you're not going to get 5 defensive rounds by winning them in a clutch every single time. I mean, if we would, it would be exciting, but it wouldn't really be. It's not repeatable. It's not something you can say that this is going to happen with consistency. But it's the first round in the string of comebacks that you need. And now the deficit, it's only 3 rounds. It's not like Akron are on match point. But you understand, we have that one mulligan that we can let slip. There aren't any others beyond that. Otherwise, we're out of the playoffs.
It's always a burden to have when you have your back against the wall. You're forced to do nothing but perfection for the remainder of Villa. I mean, to be fair, I guess NC State could try to take this game into overtime, but that's just not what they want. They want to be able to take this in regular play. You don't want to have the liability of going to round 15 and just kind of hoping you have the right side in round 15, but we're not quite there yet, Reese, because NC State has another defense on their hand as they go over the trophy.
We'll see if things are any different, if maybe Akron are going to think about slowing down, go for that reset call when you get ready for the execute. You know, if you've got that advantage, you don't want to throw another 1 versus 3 just by providing those individual isolations to the singular defender. Taco misses out on an opportunity. JetCon's like, huh, what was that noise over there?
Well, the spawn peek usually pays dividends. I mean, we've seen that play a million times in Collegiate, finding kill after kill, but so far not today. NC State, I admire them for trying to get aggressive, and why didn't work this time? I think that's just a hallmark of a team that is nowhere close yet to being defeated. They're going to fight tooth and nail for every square inch of their defending side of Villa. They're going to force Akron to make these plays, and once again, the play that Akron is trying to do, it's going to be another very linear execute, all in through master, and try to be as simple as possible, try to win as many gunfights as possible, because after all, you do have IMAT in the lobby.
We know what IMAC can do. He's a big league player. He's been around for the longest time. Nade in towards a rotate, but it doesn't find its target. Now, still got Predator kind of coming in on this Astro look, and I believe it's Jobu who does take a bit of damage from this spot. Looking at the C4s here, don't have any. It's a pretty big change to how Akron managed to play this objective when they held out in the defense. They had plenty of C4s, and some of them were even round-winning. Predator has just got explosive after explosive coming in overhead. It's IMAT, the player you highlighted, to lead us off as he gets rid of the smoke. Such a valuable kill, and it will be to Akron's advantage. Hennessy gets one as well. Predator's gone. The prone player goes unnoticed, though, by JetCon. Arv comes in on the trade. Things are 4 versus 2, and one of the most important rounds of the playoffs here. Arv, again, he managed to outlast that entry. Jobu will shoot Hennessy, a TK. Maybe opens a window here for Drew, but I like this rotation for IMAT. He doesn't try to push in solo. He just holds the angle. The Jaeger has already made it past, but Jobu's planting in plenty of safe cover, and this back Astro player will probably be the one to garner the kill. No, he doesn't. Drew drags the cursor, and so into the post plant we go.
Spread out members, the Akron offense trying to establish at 180 crossfire. That's been a conversation point so many times today, and well, Drew is suffering the wrath of that crossfire, losing HP, and they're going to have to isolate the members of Akron, take them 1v1 gunfights, and then as well complete the 7-second defuse time, isolates themselves in through Splint, but Jobu, calm, cool, and collect, is able to deal with the Drew pressure. Match point, series point confirmed now for Akron.
It wasn't really something that took too terribly long for them. A little bit of a foul up there. They should have had that 3 versus 1 closeout on the Aviator site. And they do close out in the post-plant situation, this time around on the other top floor objective. Akron are a single round win away from moving on to the grand finals, and it will be, Chief, another devastating loss for NCSU, who have just been dropping so much steam lately. At the start of the series, I mentioned how, Converse just had a tough loss yesterday in the grand finals of CR6. Maybe this is the moment for NCSU to regain that number one nationally ranked position that they held for so long during the winter term. But doesn't look like that's really the situation we've got in front of me.
Akron on the comeback once again, which is funny to say. I mean, it's something that last year we would have been like, oh, Akron's the best team, hands down. Again, we were always debating who's going to be second and third. Akron, for one of the first times, is just having to overcome the cliff. But with that being said, they still have one more round to play with. It's going to be downstairs, and, well, look who's in play. A Pulse and 2 Nitrocells.
It's your old favorite, Brian. It never seems to go away.
Call center from hell.
C4 Extravaganza, the vertical play.
Bonanza.
It was just last round. We already saw this. No, it wasn't last round. It was earlier in the first half that we did see that C4 craziness. And you'll remember how it totally handicapped NCSU, right? They really couldn't get anything started.
Well, hopefully that momentum continues forward, because Akron, with some heat underneath their wings, just if they take their map control early, it's going to be, I think, the undoing of NC State, because they've burned their mulligan. They can't make any mistakes. I mean, sure, you have the utility, maybe subsidize some liabilities during this round, but I mean, it's a lot to overcome, especially with the way that Akron is shooting. We'll still have to see if that ends up panning out, because Akron has had control, or has now taken control of the south side of the map, but what about the north side, where the members of NC State are actually occupying?
Akron have been pretty strong all day in terms of the way that they have coordinated their clears, and they haven't really seen many moments that make you really think, that one really lacks some structure, which was kind of a problem for them at the start of the academic year. They've seemed to have kind of gotten over that, which is really good. I mean, it's not something you really like seeing for a team when you see them, a team that's got so much potential. Akron have potential. They've realized their potential, but for other rosters in other circumstances, it's difficult to watch a team. One in Collegiate that I would probably highlight would be Vespa. Vespa realized their potential in the Collegiate R6 bracket against NCSU and defeated them there. It's just another poor showing on their record. Anarchy goes down. The C4 up. Oh, Arv nearly got out of there in time, but the shrapnel's enough to take his life.
Not the first time that we've seen that Nitrocell in that position before, and that was Akron leveraging it earlier. Now they're going to suffer the wrath of their own Nitrocell positioning. And NC State overall is actually looking quite standy so far on their defending hold, because they have positions upstairs. And Akron has been unable to monitor. Plus, once you start to factor in that the bomb site is on that first floor, Akron has a laundry list of things to do, Reese, and they have zero time to play out. They're going to have to decide, do you just leave the roamers upstairs and go for a truck site execute? Honestly, that's the only question they have. They have to do it now, and with the taco kill, I think we're going to see another round.
It does look as though Akron are not going to be able to complete it here. They're in the deficit, but Imad is a player who we know is such a trusty element of this team. Approaching double digits with 15 to go. Akron are going to have to get in. It'll be the Jackal for laundry pressure, and Predator runs right into him. Imad for a triple kill. 1 versus 2 for Drew. Just needs to outlast for 8 more seconds, but Imad coming in from laundry. And we will see Akron move on to the grand finals. NCSU, the Wolfpack, are eliminated.
You know what, Reese, yesterday in CR6, I said I voted Akron every single time, every one of their matches. Yesterday was the one time I voted against them. And in that round, I voted against them as well. I didn't think they were going to be able to overcome their kitchen attack, but Akron just defy all odds consistently. They're the team that has the ability of just evolving into head-clicking monsters when needed. I mean, simply put, you just can't beat IMAT in a 1v1.
Yeah, an Akron roster that we haven't seen play up to this level of potential for a few months has started to really come back in a serious way. I think NCSU kind of disappointed themselves today, did not play up to their level, did not play up to the level that we know they can play at, and unfortunately it will cause their elimination. It's not the end of the competition year for NCSU. They're already qualified for the Unified Collegiate Championship, and you will see them there. Let's hope that they can play to their best and they can show everyone why they are one of the most feared teams in the collegiate scene. But with that being said, it wraps up our semifinals for tonight. Chief, we still do have the championship game